Yet that day in Hybern, when Nesta had opened her eyes, I had seen it. Seen something great and terrible within them. And Cassian too had glimpsed that mighty power in her eyes that day in Hybern, and did not know how it would manifest. Every inch the conquering empress. Hi, and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
Hi, and welcome back to our third episode of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas.
Whoopee.
Hi, welcome back. Apologies if my voice is a little bit strained today. My birthday was yesterday, and so we partied a little bit.
Party.
Party, yeah.
Sorry for that one.
Yeah, it's a BTS JK reference if you all don't know.
Party,
yes.
Yeah.
She does it better than I do, but yeah, so our third episode, I'm so excited to get more into this. We're finally back in the Night Court, and we will be going through chapters 15 through the end of 18.
It's so nice to be home in the night.
I know, now we're home, and it's going to be like a shorter section, not as actiony, but there's a lot of lore, which we love. Well, if you count Nesta as action. Then there's a lot of action
honestly,
in this.
Yeah. If anything, she's the action.
Right. So yeah, let's just get right into this. So previously on A Court of Wings and Ruin. So yeah, it was the end of spring and the fall of spring. The story is Lucian and Feyre cuckolded Tamlin and left, which is so funny to me. They went in autumn, and then they were traveling for days with no magic, and then of course Lucian's dumbass brothers decided to attack them, and our bat boys saved them from an icy grave. And yeah,
clever wordplay there.
Yes, I know. I tried. And then we got flown back to the Night Court. We got reunited with everybody, and especially mate Rhysand.
Yay.
Ending with a sexy love scene. That was a pretty good Yes, true. That was a pretty good recap. That
was really put together.
That was just on the fly. I didn't think about. I was just going off of information from last time, so I'm proud of myself.
Good job.
So yeah, let's just get right into it. So chapter 15, chapter 14 was, yes, after the, I would say more romantic sex scene. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily sexy.
It was more making love.
Yeah, 100%. Where Rhysand kicked everybody out of the house so he could have his way. And we find out that her sisters have been living up at the House of Wind, which me and Liesl were both spot on with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where else would he put them that they'd be secure?
Right. Even in the Mission Fury, Rhys knew that there's only a few places that, he would trust for someone to be safe. And of course, they're not gonna go put the sisters in the cabin or something. So,
yeah.
Of course, where else in Valaris would they put them?
They'd be very isolated there. That'd be bad.
Yeah. And also on top, they're in the House of Wind. They have some room to move around, but they also can't wander.
Yeah, and they have they can see the city. It's not like they're in a mountain cabin alone without seeing nobody. There's very much a different ambiance.
Yeah, so they won't go insane at least. Hopefully.
Right. So Rhys apparently gave them a silent order to come back. It's okay, guys, JK, you can come back now.
Okay, I'm done now.
It's okay. But the fact that they have to, Rhys and Feyre have to be extra, and I appreciate it. So as they're sitting, I think Amren doesn't come back. I think Moore's also, it's just Lucian, Cassian, and Azriel that are downstairs.
Yeah.
And when they epically walk down the staircase.
That's your dream come true.
I know. Why do you think I like Rhysand so much? He's like the guy that can be dramatic with me. It's like, as he could see the mating bond glowing between Rhys and me, the ring now on my finger, the star sapphire, sky bright, amethyst. Hell yeah.
Just like, yeah, I got it on my finger.
I know, she finally gets to wear her wedding ring now.
Lucian's not happy though.
The wedding ring that she won, by the way, let's remember that.
Yes, she earned it.
Yeah, she won from not won, but she retrieved from the Weaver's cabin, not unscathed, but definitely just alive.
I'd consider that winning it.
I think so too. I love how it's funny though, because like Rhysand has a band on his finger now too, and she was like trying to say that he should go to the Weaver's cabin and do the same thing to make it equal.
I would actually pay to see that though.
Oh, Rhys is like, yeah, I'll do it, babe. Sure.
Sure, whatever you want, babe.
Yeah, sure. Funny as shit. Cassian is such a funny brother. The fact that as they walk down, he's just smirking hella. Yeah, I know what you guys did.
It's like, and then yeah, that's my brother right there.
That's my sister-in-law. Or that's my sister right there. Dude, it's funny because she gives him a look. Say something, bitch. Don't say anything. It's like, I love Cassian and Azriel's reactions, but then I'm like, dude, Lucian, I love you, man, but you need to get over this, like, hella quickly.
Like, literally, Lucian, you eventually saw what Tamlin was doing to her. Why are you still pissed about it?
It's like, again, I think I understand, but at the same time, there's a level of, oh, wait, but you're not taking any opportunity to think about it. You're just automatically upset.
I think that he's just jealous that he doesn't have a mate who will wear a ring.
Yeah, not the ring that he gave. Whoops. Well, yeah, I think he's also that, and it's also, seeing her with him. He still has this bias towards Rhysand that's not going to go away very easily.
Yeah.
But the fact that he sneers at her when he sees how close they're standing and sees the ring, like, Rhys is having none. Well, okay, I love Rhysand. So basically, he goes on a little bit of a monologue. He's polite at first. He's like, I can understand how this has probably been a little bit changing for you, or it's been difficult to kind of see us how we are. But he tells him Elaine is fine. Well, we learn relatively fine. Nobody has done anything against her will. And he says, like, I was in love with Feyre long before she ever felt or ever returned the feeling.
Which is super sweet. Elaine is fine. Or fine in the sense of that they have done nothing to her. She's just stuck in her mind.
Yeah. I love how it immediately shifts, though, because as soon as Rhys starts threatening them, Cassie and Azriel both stand up and come, and they're like behind Lucian. They're pinning him. Like
ominous shadows behind him.
Yeah, he full on threatens him. He's like, I will only say this once, da-da-da. Because, again, Lucian has never been... Feyre and Rhysand have never told them how the wedding went. Because, obviously, from everybody else's perspective, of course it would look like he came and stole her away. They don't know about the mind thing. They don't know about that. So, he says, I was going to let her marry him, but I wasn't going to let her, wither away and die in the shadows.
Right.
And she, like, stands up for herself, too. She's like, I was going to call the wedding off, and you know it.
It's like, Lucian, didn't you see me hesitate in the aisle?
She's, well, and then he gets really mad at him when he says, I will never forgive or forget how she felt when he locked her away and when he blew up the study. The first time. So we gotta clarify. And you know what? Oh, shit. I forgot that Cassie and Azriel didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Because they don't really know everything. I mean, they already were upset for her, but without needing I think that tells more than knowing everything. The fact that
once they found out everything, then they're all of a sudden like, wait, what?
Extra mad. Like, Cassie and Azriel didn't really need to know all the context. They knew that Tamlin was bad already without these examples. It's like the fact that, Lucian? I've never said his name like that. I'm so sorry. That Lucian said, or like that he needs an explanation, I feel like is tantamount to the difference between them.
Right, because if we think about it, Cassian and Azriel, they didn't know the details. They just, because we don't really know what Rhys told them, but like they could see with their own eyes that Feyre was wasting away. She was skin and bones, and obviously she was volatile emotionally. So, like, they could see something traumatic happen to her other than just on the mountain. And that's all they needed in order to try and help her through it. On top of the fact, of course, that Rhys seemed infatuated with her. But, like, other than that, like, they could see it with their own eyes. And so the fact that there's such a huge comparison, not even a comparison between them and Lucien.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that changes, but at the same time, I definitely was mad when I first, because Cassie and Azriel get really mad. They're like, we didn't know about that. We want to kill him more now.
Right. It's like, wait, why did we bring him here? Did we bring him here to kill him?
The casualness of this threat of him saying, Feyre never dishonored Tamlin. If you even suggest something, I'll rip out your fucking throat. Or if you ever look at my mate with that much disdain again. It's like,
it's so casual, but like, we know Rhys would probably do it, especially since he's still a possessive mate. But at the same time, it's just also super cute.
I know. It's so sweet when he threatens to rip out somebody's throat. I mean, you know. Dude, this is where we are. This is where we're at. And I've been at this place since 2018, so. So, I mean, that ends the conversation very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, then.
Argue against that.
Oh, no. Like, it's over. It's like, okay, the threat has been made. What are we doing now?
Yep.
So they decide, or well, it's Feyre who decides that she's going up to see her sisters at the House of Wind, which first gut reaction, I went, this is going to go very poorly.
Yeah. Considering the last time that she saw them a month ago, they were like struggling and forced into the cauldron, and she could do nothing, did nothing.
Also, every time I think Nesta has gotten better, I feel like she gets me disappointed, because at least they had some sort of truce last book, and now I feel like she's just going to continuously blame her.
It's like one step forward and then one step back. It's literally an even.
Oh yeah, 100%. So like we both were like, this isn't going to go well.
Yeah.
But she offers Lucien to go.
Finally, that's good.
Which, I mean, because that's what he wanted.
Even though Rhys literally was just threatening him and Lucien was giving a dirty look to Feyre, she's just like, so, do you want to come up to the House of Wind with us?
Because he made it her call. He's like, you brought him. You have to figure out what to do with him.
It's your problem.
So I love how in this end, before they get up there, Azriel dips out hella. He's like, I actually have to go do something. So then Cassian has to carry Lucien up to the House of Wind.
Az was just trying to find an excuse not to carry Lucien.
Again.
Again.
Now we need to get a picture of Cassian holding Lucien in bridal style up to the House of Wind.
I feel like Cassian would be like more of an angry face rather than uncomfortable, because he'd probably still be seething about what he learned about Feyre.
Oh, I also don't feel like he would carry him right. I feel like he'd carry him like Shrek carried Fiona in the movie. He'd like carry him on his shoulder.
Yeah. Or like one-armed, like just get a sack of potatoes under the arm.
Yeah, he probably has enough strength to be able to do that. Cassian is a monster powerhouse, so I don't doubt he'd be able to. I wouldn't mind being carried like that, is all I have to say. That's all I have to say with that. I feel like he could carry me anyway, though, and I'd be fine with that.
That's also true.
So, overall term. Though I will say, god damn this house. Can I just say, like, how beautiful this house seems?
Mm-hmm.
It's like an all open floor. It's different than I actually think my favorite house of his has to be the Moonstone Palace. I just like the open layout.
Yeah.
But this house gives more, I don't know, this house is a close second, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes me think of the Cullen household and, I was going to say Vampire Diaries. Blasphemy. Twilight. It makes me think of the Twilight house, which everybody freaks out about. Like, that's like the best house. It looks so good. It just makes me think of that, because whenever somebody says, oh, the Cullen, the vampire, or like the Twilight house, everybody knows what you're talking about, and it's like a really nice house out in the middle of nowhere.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So I know. I know.
Twilight is on my list, though.
I know. I have to make you watch it.
Twilight and Game of Thrones.
Yep. So as they get up to the top of the house, I kind of like, and this is a theme throughout this section of episodes, it's all Feyre is doing the same thing that Rhys did to her when she first got there. Mm-hmm. Then, like, with the dinner scene later, obviously, and then this moment specifically talking to Lucien at the balcony.
Yeah.
Where I like how it mirrors previous book, from not only the dinner scene, but to her talking to Lucian up on the balcony.
Yeah.
It's a very I love the juxtaposition, and it's also like, she's the lady of the night court now. She's, any new person besides Lucian, this is what it's going to be. Any guest. It's almost like she wants people to feel the same way she felt when she got there.
Mm-hmm. And it's also a testament to how far she's come, considering where she was last time, that she was standing on the balcony here talking with someone. And, everyone else went inside. And so I love how much she's kind of in control now of herself, as well as I appreciate how the others are letting her have this role. Not just because she's High Lady of the Night Court or their friend or whatever. Like, they're just like letting her have this as like a term of respect, as just she's earned it, basically. And I just really appreciate that.
Oh, 100%. Rhys goes inside and, brings Cassian with him, and they have their own moment. And like Lucian is having the same thoughts that she did, which I guess is good. He's having the same revelations that she is. Like, the city is beautiful. This is what he was protecting. Wow.
Oh, and I also wanted to add on, really appreciate Sarah in writing that, Sarah's writing, the fact that she adds in like these little moments of juxtapositions and comparisons to previous books, not necessarily to be like, hey, do you remember this? But more so of, you've seen this before. Even if you're not thinking about it, you've seen this before. It's a continuity. It helps keep the movement going, helps the scenes flow, without like throwing too much at your face all at once. Like, it's a sense of familiarity.
No, 100. I was going to bring that up later, but I'm glad you bring that up now, because I love that. And especially with like the dinner scene later, but especially with this scene where it's like, it's almost like in a TV show or a movie where you're just like, oh, I remember when they did this thing over here. It's almost like we're going along for the ride of, oh, we were here before. I think similarly to you, how you said, oh, remember this is where this happened and dotted. Like, obviously that's there, but it's, oh my God, this scene happened like this. It's happening similarly. And then you just get so excited because it's like, oh my God,
It's something to latch on to 100% and makes you want to keep reading, while at the same time almost giving your like mind a little bit of a breather, in the sense of like, we've given all of this new information. This is something we've seen before. I could breathe, but it's like, oh, I've seen this before. I like this. I wonder if there's more stuff that I've seen before that's coming up.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep reading.
Especially so. So I'm glad you bring that up. But so Feyre starts from the beginning. She says, she starts at Calanmai. She said, Rhys saved me on Calanmai. Nobody knew. And like, I had a moment of like, we're 3 books in, and especially when I read this the first time, I was like, no one knew Rhys saved her on Calanmai. Nobody. Lucian didn't know. Lucian didn't know. Tamlin didn't know. Nobody in Spring knew. I mean, my God.
The only thing that like I thought that they would have understood, but I guess they didn't, was when Rhys came back and interrupted their lunch in the first book. And like, when he removed the glamour, he's like, I remember you. Like, where the hell like did Tamlin and Lucian think that Rhys remembered her from?
I don't think they were listening, honestly.
Probably not. But like, I guess in my mind, when I first read it, I totally thought that they would have absorbed and was curious why they didn't ask where Rhys had met her before.
Because if they brought that up earlier, I'm not saying Lucian's opinion of him would have changed, but I mean, definitely that's some missing information that I didn't even remember that he didn't know about.
Or Lucian probably actually might have been thinking, oh, Rhys saved her. He probably wants something from her.
Yeah, back then, probably, yeah. So she brings Rhys over. So she regales him of their story, basically like chapter 54, except without all the vulnerable parts on Rhys's end.
Right.
Rhys types in, because Feyre is sharing her story that she wants to share, but she's not sharing anything of Rhys's story that he doesn't want to share with him.
Because that's his to tell.
Yeah. And so she comes, then the thing is, like, Cassian is like chiming in from the background. Yeah. And this happened. And it's very like that familiarity thing about, I don't know, retelling their story is something like a tale as old as time, right? I love rethinking about their past events, even though we just read it.
Yeah. Because again, we hear it from, I mean, it was different going through it with Feyre versus then hearing Rhys's explanation of it in the second book. And now it's like a third recap of it. And it's Feyre explaining it again, but it's different from how we experienced it with her in the first book, because now she understands it and she's thought about it.
Yep.
It's so cool.
And all I could think of was, because she brought up, what was it? There was like one instance, When she brought up the cabin, like, I just went, yeah, the cabin. Like, I just felt so overly excited for no reason. I was just like, when somebody's regaling of past events and it's just, or when somebody's like, oh, let me retell this story. And it's like, yeah, the cabin. Yeah. It's like,
even if
yeah.
no one else like understands what you understand it, so it's like, hey, I know that place. I know what happened there.
It's like an inside joke that it's like, yep, I know.
A beautiful cabin that is now covered in paint.
Oh, yeah. In more ways than one. It's like Lucian is starting to understand now, seeing the city. Of course, he says that. He's like, it's lovely. And you love him, and he truly does love you. They are your family. Okay, thank you for acknowledging it. But he's acknowledging it, but not really understanding it.
Yeah, but acknowledging is a first step, at least.
Yes, you're right. So it's a first step, but also, like, I just love how, though, when she brings up, she's just like, well, I think Amryn would bet. He interrupts her, and he's like, Amryn was a bedtime story that they told us that, like, she'd eat us if we did something bad.
And Feyre's just like, really? Oh, she's just a sweetheart, though.
Yeah, like, even Lucian is just like, yeah, she's just like an old auntie. Like,
he's like, how did this myth actually happen when Lucian can sense Amryn's power? But it is kind of funny how he's just like, yeah, she's actually a lot nicer.
Or just not evil, if that makes sense. Right. Like, she's just kind of neutral.
Neutral with a lot of power, which can be dangerous. Definitely not what Lucian was expecting.
Oh, no. I will say I kind of feel like that with my friends sometimes. Like, not as, like, dangerous, but I feel like my name is so synonymous with nervousness. Because I feel like with you and with my two friends from high school, I feel like, especially with their boyfriends, there's a level of Tabitha's the scary sister who you kind of have to impress. Even though that's not how I would act anyway, there's a level of my opinion is...
Your opinion matters to them, so they're scared of you.
Yeah, because they're scared of, because I'm so open and honest about my feelings, that it'll be very...
Really protective friends.
Mm-hmm. So I'm that scary person that, like, not like in a bedtime story, but a level of, oh yeah, Tabitha is synonymous with a little bit of nervousness.
Tabitha's a scary bedtime story. And it's my favorite one.
Oh, just wait until you get somebody, and then you're gonna have the same reaction of just like, yeah, Tabitha.
No. I'm gonna brag about you all the time, so they'll get jealous.
And they'll be nervous, like, uh-oh, she has to like me.
I mean, of course I'd want your approval on them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if they don't get it, then they didn't earn it.
Yeah. Of course, like, Lucian is still hesitant, but it's fair but annoying because he's went with this, like, Rhysand is bad narrative. But I think he's more scared because he says that he's like, I didn't know I was a villain in your narrative, because he's afraid that Elaine is going to see him as a villain. And it's like, bro, I'm just going to tell you what, you were the one standing by Tamlin's side in Highburn, so I don't think, like, whatever Feyre said, she's obviously going to see you as the person who stood by them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, already Elaine and Nesta to an extent hate Faye. And so, like, they were, I mean, obviously we already talked about the whole traumatic event that was the end of second, but Lucian was there. He was standing next to Tamlin, and they had heard bad things about Tamlin already multiple times.
Yeah.
So that, on top of the fact that they were bound and gagged and struggling, and there were guards and an evil king who put them into basically a boiling cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, Lucian, they're not going to have a good opinion of you, regardless of what they've been told.
Funny hypothetical. Would you think that Nesta wouldn't have as of an adverse reaction to Lucian if he wasn't on their side? Like, let's say if, like, it was Azriel who had the mating bond. Do you think she would have had an adverse as of a reaction? Oh, you're not her mate, or even how she is in this next scene of just like, he's no such thing. Like, do you think she would have had that reaction?
Yes, but, like, maybe not as extreme, but, like, still probably pretty extreme, just because of the fact that, you know, Nesta, even if she didn't like Grayson, she kind of understood that Elaine liked him, loved him,
yeah,
and was engaged to him. And so she's going to protect Elaine no matter what she thinks. She's going to put her own thoughts aside. And so on top of that, I think regardless of if it was like Lucian versus Azriel, the fact that they're both Fae males, like, she would hate that. And actually, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think Nesta's perception of fairies is often what the other humans are, of like the beasts. So seeing Azrael with wings might have had a different level of get the fuck away from.
I agree. I think it just wouldn't have been as bad because, like, she knows that Lucian was on
That's
that side, so obviously she's gonna know.
That's true. Versus, I suppose, yeah, I forgot to take into account the fact that Elaine and Nesta have met Azrael before. Had met him before that awful situation. So I guess, yeah, that would make sense. Especially since Elaine seemed to be slightly okay, comfortable with
him. Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, taking that into account, then yeah, Lucian's was 100% way worse
than it would have been. Yeah. As they're so they finally make their way into. Feyre is telling Lucian to stay behind because she wants to ask Elaine if she would even want to see him first before he goes in.
Right.
So as they make their way, Feyre just looks over at Cassian and he is all tense up, like 10 swings, shaking, and she's just like, I wonder why. It's like, and then they open the doors and I'm like, that's why. She's right there.
Are you okay, dude?
When they make their way in, I love how she's described because, Nesta's reading a book, which apparently to Feyre was very un-Nesta-like. And I do want to say before, we've talked about this in I think our first season when they described the sisters, like Feyre is technically very plain looking. I mean, they're all gorgeous people, obviously, but Nesta is the one that looks the most, I would say, strikingly gorgeous.
Yeah, queenly.
So it's like Nesta's the one that's devastatingly beautiful, and now that she's high fae, it's just been enhanced. We talked about this. Feyre's the pretty one, Elaine's like cute, and then beautiful, but then Nesta is just drop dead, sexy, gorgeous. That's how we like described them.
The stunning, drop dead, gorgeous that will literally drop you dead if you get in her way.
Yeah. So it's I just like to love how Feyre sees what we all see with Cassian standing beside her, and he's like looking down. He's like, she talks about how like Cassian looked at her neck and then he like darted away from it. It's like, Cassian, bro, stop doing this to me. Why would the first thing he be to look at her neck? Obviously, because these aren't fae that like to bite, like necessarily. Well. No, I mean in a lot of other fantasies, sometimes fae creatures do need to drink blood. It's in another book series, I think. In Blood and Ash, I believe. Blood and Ash, the fae have to drink blood. But they obviously don't. But there's a level of claiming with a bite. So
we also know Cassian seems to be a biter. He mentioned it like day one in Valaris.
Which I'm okay. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Maybe that's why you like so much.
What'd you think?
I thought you maybe liked him because he was a good male.
I mean, that too. That above all else, like biting is like 5th on that list, but it's still on the list.
Yeah.
So obviously she's as lovely as we thought she was going to be. They walk in and she's very much, why are you here? Why are you here? At every point. Doesn't even say, like, well, she says to Feyre, you're back, but not.
Just like, oh, you're back. Great.
I would be so devastated, bro. I will say, I'm not trying to give her the benefit of the doubt here, but I picked up on this time that I didn't feel like I picked up any of the other times. I don't think she was talking to Feyre. I don't think she was saying, why are you here? Why are you here to her? I think it was to him, to Cassian.
That would
because
make more sense.
Because at every point here, let me like go to the text. When she says, what do you want? As her focus again returned to Cassian, she added, what do you want?
How many times does Cassian actually show up and visit her in the past month?
And I think we got it. Like he goes every other day to ask her if she wants to train.
That's his way of saying, hey, do you want to talk about stuff?
It is. That's his pickup line. He's like, hey, do you want to like go train and then we can talk about things?
Such a Cassian thing. I love it.
Because then when she says like again, why are you here? She snatched the book from Cassian. She's not saying it to her, but Feyre is taking it as that.
Right.
I mean, I guess how else would she take it? But in this context, I really think she is talking to him.
I mean, because she's not differentiating, so it makes sense. Feyre's confusion.
So when she asked if Feyre accomplished it, well, I made Ianthe suffer. Spring is down or whatever, and then she looks disappointed. It's like Nesta has the mentality of, okay, you didn't kill everybody, don't come back until you do mentality.
Right, or like, well, okay, I kind of actually took it more along the lines of Nesta almost like wanted her revenge on Ianthe for doing this to Elaine. So I
see that.
Took it as more of a disappointment of, well, like a mixture of you didn't kill anyone, that sucks, or you didn't kill everyone, that sucks, but also like I wanted to beat Ianthe's face in myself. Well,
and I think she's actually gunning more for the king than she is for her.
That's true.
She never remember, she doesn't have a face for Ianthe because she's never seen her.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because she wasn't in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the king is like the face of all her nightmares, basically. So that's who she's going to target.
And she did give the point in.
Yes. And so interesting that you bring that up, because I think in everybody's mind, and especially Feyre's in this instance, she's like, we know that Nesta has a great power within her, but they don't really know what it is or like how it came to be. But it's scary.
Scary. Very scary.
So it's like, that's kind of something to hang over our heads for a while. I think that's something we're going to figure out, obviously, but not easily.
Not for a while.
So when Feyre asks about if Nesta is okay, Nesta goes on a rant, right? She's like, about that I've accepted my lot in life. She's like, I get to be young and beautiful forever. What's so bad about that?
It's like, okay, thanks for being so passive aggressive.
And she's like, well, honestly, she's kind of right, though, in the fact that she didn't have anything over the wall. Like, she didn't have a life over there. There's nobody over there who cares about her. So Elaine was really the only person who had a stake across the wall in terms of a life.
Yeah, and now that doesn't seem to be able to happen, probably.
Well, and I guess they're assuming, but me being the optimist that I was like, oh, if he really loves her, then it won't matter.
Huh.
But they are assuming okay, hear my perspective. The reason I say that is because those, like, the humans don't know anything about Fae. It's not like a human has ever changed Fae. Like, they've never even heard of something like that. They don't have the lore that we do. So there's a level of, okay, your betrothed, your fiance got turned into a quote-unquote monster, but it's not like she's eating anybody or, it's like, that's not how that works.
Right.
She doesn't need to kill people to survive. This isn't like Vampire Diaries. Like, she doesn't need blood to survive. It's like, so he's making it so over dramatic when I didn't decide to become a quote unquote high fae monster to you. So I was thinking maybe if he really did love her, then the fae thing wouldn't matter.
But I think just specifically, I think it was written this way, specifically because Grayson is the son of a hay-fading lord, and thus is also a hay-fader. Like, the fact that it was specifically said about that, I feel like that's gonna get in the way.
Well, and the lifespan thing.
Oh, yeah, that too.
That he's gonna die and be old and decrepit while she's young forever.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
How does he not see the perks in that?
I know, right? So it's like, I feel bad for Elaine, but I don't know. I guess I didn't expect this. So when Feyre says Elaine's mate is here, obviously Nesta, that was not the thing to say, because Nesta tells them that Elaine isn't sleeping, she's not talking, she's crying all the time, she's not eating or drinking. Rhys is like, wait, I thought you said she was okay. She's like, it's nobody's business but our own.
No, I think it's other people's business.
If she's not eating or drinking, then why did you lie and say that she was fine?
Because it doesn't seem you're able to help her, so shouldn't you let other people try and help her? Okay, I understand saying that Elaine's mate is there to see her. That's not the great way to say it. You could have just said Lucian's here, or Elaine has a visitor or something. But regardless of that, why won't you, like, if you love Elaine so much, why won't you let her get help? If you can't help her, let someone else try.
Because I just think Nesta has a very negative attitude to most things, and she's very stubborn.
Very stubborn, and in a way not even in a way, she is protective of Elaine, but that's getting in the way of getting Elaine help.
Absolutely. So as they're, she's like, he's no such thing to her if you bring that male anywhere near here. I like how if you're reading the book, she italicizes male. Nesta very much, because like the difference between her and Feyre is Feyre kind of just says man or male. Like, she doesn't really, it's kind of all in her own mind. She doesn't really differentiate, but she is specifically wanting to let you know that you are a male to me, not a man.
Yeah.
Which I guess, yes, like that's technically the right term to call them, but
for me, like, you're emphasizing someone's a male, I'm like, okay, that's better than a man.
Yeah, like, but to her, it's like derogatory.
Yeah.
Dude, but the fact that like immediately Cassian gets up in her face, like, you'll do what? Like, holy shit, you're playing with fire. This is hilarious.
But at the same time, Cassian is taking heat off of the others. He's purposely taking Nesta's heat on the soldier that he is to protect, his High Lord and Lady. But on top of that, just obviously we think that there's something else happening.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think he enjoys the fight.
Oh, yeah. 100%, 100%. Which
So it's a
makes
mixture of protecting while also enjoying the fight. That seems like okay for Cassian.
That's what happens when you have two type A's. It's either going to be very toxic or it's going to be very... There's a lingering line between toxicity and intensity.
Spicy.
And so they're playing a fine line between their relationship.
Yeah, whatever that relationship may be right now.
So, yeah, so we kind of brought it up, but Cassian has been asking her to train, which I never really understood at first because I was like, I feel like she'd be a whole badass. Why wouldn't she want to train? I really don't understand why she's refusing it.
She just doesn't want to train with him.
Oh, yeah. But he's probably the one who would be most likely to train her, though.
Right. And, I mean, the trainings helped Feyre get through some stuff. And I know Feyre and Nesta aren't the same, but Cassian's pretty capable, you know?
Well, but also, I feel like she's thinking that he's doing it because, like, he's interested in her. The only reason he's doing it is because, not just because Cassian is the person that trains everybody. Cassian's the person that trains everybody. Like,
right,
she
doesn't know that.
Yeah, she doesn't realize that he's just the trainer guy, not...
And that's his way of, like, showing that he cares and trying to reach out for help.
She just doesn't understand it, and that's what's frustrating. But, like, she ignores him, and then she kind of caves, right? Because he says kind of the line of, if you stand between a mate and her... Sorry, what did he say? Hold on. If you come between a male and his mate, Nestor Acheron, you'll see the consequences the hard way. And I'm like, oh, God.
I will admit, I do not... There is a part of me that does not like the fact that a male and his mate... I mean, I get mate is, like, claiming. Lucian hasn't earned it.
No, I think, like, he's saying it, every guy would say it.
I know.
Even though he's not trying to say it in a possessive, over-toxic masculine way, there is a level of that's how just that is.
Which is kind of unfortunate. Although I would love to hear more about a female and her mate.
Well, because the thing is, we know of mates that are they're not straight.
Mm-hmm.
So
that, and also, it could be a straight thing of just a female and her male mate. Like, we don't hear enough of that.
Oh, well, yeah, no, they don't. That's how most mate relationships are. They're changing the narrative on that. And I think that's why I like it.
Yeah.
But yes, I understand. I agree. I understand that that's how it's said, but I also think these women are changing that narrative, changing the him and his mate. It's going to be like just my mate, or like you said, if you stand between her and her mate, you know, something like that. I feel like they're changing the narrative on mates. That's all I got to say. I will say that when Nesta lets them go, we talked about this. I didn't think this the first time, but you know, we took a step back and took a breather because of just how angry Nesta makes us. But it shows that Nesta still trusts Feyre to take care of Elaine for them to be alone.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very indirect way of showing that she knows that she'll take care of her.
Yeah, which is good. At least there's that level. And I guess there's always been that level indirectly, even since the first book of, while Nesta can be a bit of a bitch, and she really doesn't show her care very forwardly, like, she has always trusted Feyre to take care of things. She shouldn't have put it on her youngest sister, but she still trusted her younger sister to take care of them.
Yep, so it's wild, bro. So we get to see Elaine finally. I feel like this is worse than what I expected. I mean, I didn't think she was going to be happy, but this is, like, bad.
Yeah.
So she, like, has her hair down, which is definitely a sign of, especially to them, because they always have their hair up.
Right. Especially Elaine, like, even since the first book, she's always had her hair braided in a crown.
And the curtains are all the way pulled back, so, like, the light is showing in. This is how Feyre was last book. Maybe a little bit more of an extreme version, but definitely the same, no flicker of emotion, this feeling of unease. Like, I don't care. Like, she's not showing anything. She's not even looking sad. She is very much plain Jane, just, like, so neutral. That makes me so fucking uneasy, by the way.
Yeah, that is, like, she's literally a shell.
It's like, bro, I know you were gonna be married. I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm just like, maybe it's because I don't care. It's not that I don't care about her, but there's a level of, I don't really care about your marriage. Like, we didn't really know much about it. I was like,
right.
I don't really care.
Right.
But I understand character-wise why. And she's still wearing the wedding ring.
The iron wedding ring.
Yes.
I feel like that's kind of, like, contradictory, though, because, like, they wear iron to scare away the Fae. Now she's Fae and wearing an iron ring.
It's almost like, metaphorically, she's trying to not accept. No, I'm not. I have the iron band on to keep the Fae away. I'm not that.
I can't be Fae. The iron isn't hurting me.
It also just makes me uneasy because, like, they went into this all-powerful cauldron who's the life force of their world, and Nesta was the only one that seemed to come out with any sort of extreme powers. I'm like, this is a little bit uneasy to me.
Oh, 100, yeah. I think at first when I was, like, reading this section, I was thinking that, I was thinking about the cauldron and how Nesta came out with a bunch of power. I thought that like something got drained out of Elaine and then given to Nesta. So it almost feels like Nesta has power for two. And Elaine has zero power. Not zero power, but less than power.
I don't really remember what I was thinking. I definitely didn't get uneasy when I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, oh, she might have some power, but it's just not as powerful. But
Right.
I really don't believe that now. Not because of what I know, because obviously we know probably as little as anybody else does. But yeah, now that's weird to me.
Yeah.
But I do, so Rhys-Ann comes in to help her because like Feyre's like almost in tears.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I did this, which no, bitch, you didn't. This was not your fault, man.
Yeah.
If anything, it's not anybody's, but honestly, the inner circle maybe are more at fault here because they pushed to go.
Right.
But nobody's at, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Not directly, and it's just, but of course, Feyre's going to think that because she was the one that led everyone to her family.
Yeah.
But also, Rhys to the rescue.
Like, I know. Such a good brother-in-law. He was like, can we get you anything, Elaine? It's like, oh. Having Rhys as a brother-in-law, bro.
Pretty good.
And Lucian sees her, because obviously he didn't listen.
Of course.
So she doesn't see him, but he sees her. And I love this last monologue that Feyre gives. She's like, Elaine has always been gentle and sweet, and I considered it a different sort of strength, a better strength, to look at the hardness of the world and choose over and over to love, to be kind. She has always been so full of light. Perhaps that's why she now kept all the curtains open, to fill the void that now existed where all that light had once been, and now nothing remained. Dang.
I feel like, going into that a little bit, but going back to the first book when it's like Elaine had always seen everything positive, and like we know of like Feyre saying like she knew which one of them had been stronger between her and Elaine, because Elaine had always seen everything so positively. Now Elaine isn't looking so strong.
Honestly, I agree with you. I'm not trying to, you know how much of an optimist I am. Yeah. There's a level of her optimism is too much to where it leads her then to pain. Like you can't have too much of anything.
Yeah.
Because if you have too much optimism, then you're blinded and naive by things that you shouldn't be. And so then this happens.
And then once all that light is taken away, you have nothing left. That's not good.
It's like faux optimism. It makes it seem like it's actual optimism when you're just, it's almost like it's more hope than anything.
Yeah.
And once you extinguish the hope and there's nothing there, it wasn't really optimism, was it? Because I feel like optimism is taking a situation and turning it positive, not just thinking positively. Like two different things.
Yeah.
Like optimism doesn't mean that you have to take a really bad situation you've been in and just be like, oh my God, I'm glad this happened. Like obviously not. There's a level of, oh, I wouldn't be here, if taking a moment and like saying, oh, something positive came out of it, even though all this bad stuff happened.
Right.
So I don't think she's actually optimistic.
Yeah.
So I agree. I'm glad you brought that up though. So yeah, it doesn't really look like that's, look at the strength there. Nothing.
I was going to say one more thing on the Elaine thing. The final thing I wanted to say is like kind of touching on the end of that optimism thing and having it be like thinking it's like, maybe I'm stretching it a little bit, but the fact that the curtains are open, it's kind of like the curtains have been pulled back from the like facade that she had on. And so now the curtains have been pulled back. She's actually dark inside.
Ooh, I could see that.
Some text changing right there.
I feel like that makes me way more uneasy. Because she was just being fake this whole time.
Yeah.
Or not really herself, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on to chapter 16, of course, they lead Lucian. So apparently he's staying up the House of Wind with the sisters. What a great bad idea that they decided.
It's like, oh, just put him on another floor. It's fine. Tell him not to go up to visit Elaine. That'll work.
I guess where else are they going to put him? I mean, he'd be awkward staying at the townhouse. So, and they kind of need him to be on lockdown a little bit.
Yeah, at least until they can get him familiar with Valaris and know he's not going to run off anywhere.
Well, yeah, because Rhys's biggest concern is him running off with Elaine.
Right.
So put him in the closest proximity they could be at. Right. I like the reverse psychology, Rhys-Ann. I appreciate it.
Totally works, and Lucian is totally going to follow your rules.
I love how Rhys is offering him clothes, and Lucian's like, is there a cost to them? It's like, dude, you're a High Lord's son. Like, you're a guest.
It's like, you're a guest, and also Feyre likes you, so I'm not going going to treat you like shit.
He's still kind of, I don't want to say he's shitty. I feel like he's shitty to him, but not, it's almost like a constant guilt trip, if that makes sense. He's
Definitely.
constantly
And I
guilt
think-
tripping.
Yeah, and Reese obviously did not like how he looked at, Reese did not like how Lucian looked at Feyre, so obviously he's a little bit petty for that as well.
Right. So, you said there's kind of some ground rules here. He can't go to Elaine and Nesta. He has to stay clear because unless, like, she doesn't want to take Elaine's choice away in meeting him, she wants it to be on her terms.
Mm-hmm.
And especially how she was acting, like, there's no way that would even be a good interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, okay, you can try to trek down the 10,000 steps, or you can stay up here and wait for somebody to come and fly you down. Otherwise, you can't winnow out of here.
Right.
It's like, you're not a prisoner, but there's a level of, we don't trust you yet.
Uh-huh.
So, definitely that. I love how, though, Reese, he's like, because I think Lucian asked, like, what if I don't follow these rules? He's like, well, then we'll lock you in a room with Amren. Oh.
What crazy auntie.
I wonder how that would go. I feel like she would just sit there and just get him so on edge that he'd think something would happen, but then it never would.
I feel like, actually, I kind of imagine, what if they were in Amren's apartment and, like, he was just not able to leave her apartment as she was just sitting there doing whatever, like, babysitting him. And then, I don't know, like, Feyre brought her blood, and so he had to, like, witness her, like, drinking blood and shit.
Mm-hmm.
He would be terrified.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, 100% he would.
He would see the blood ruby.
And be like,
Be
oh,
like,
I know what that means.
Yeah.
I do like how Feyre is a queen in the making, bro. Like, she's, making decisions. She's, because technically she wouldn't be named queen because she's a high lady, but kind of similarly how we've called the High Lords kings before. It's like not kind of different than Elaine, because Elaine is more like just a typical lady of a household, while Feyre is a queen to me.
Mm-hmm.
She's very queenly in nature.
Definitely. She's queen of the night.
She is. So they go to Amren's loft and they have a big, because now like everybody's together. We've, Feyre has gotten her time with her sand, with her sisters. Now we got to come up with game. We need to figure out what's next. So they head over to Amren's loft, and Amren is not really happy that they're there.
But she wasn't going to come back to the townhouse, it seems.
No, she's stuck where she is. I love how like one of the first things she says to Reese is like, you should kill all of Autumn and make Lucian the High Lord, and everything will go more smoothly. It's like, oh, okay, Amren, that's so easy.
So easy.
With what they have to do, honestly, I kind of agree with her in a really weird way.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's great to see them all together again, I just want to say. It's like,
it is.
Getting that good old nostalgia, but getting excited for what's to come, because now we're all together again, and it's so good.
Right, because we had a brief moment when they reunited in the foyer, but like now they're finally all talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and now we're back to the betting thing. Everybody's betting about how long it's going to take for Lucian to go see Elaine.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll give him 30 minutes.
It's like, I bet he's already gone up.
It's like, oh my god. It's so funny to see them interact with each other.
So nice.
I specifically want to bring up, though, how mad Moore gets when they talk about Nesta and how she treats Cassian.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, I feel like both you and me were in the same boat, that I don't think that Moore has any romantic feelings for Cassian, but she's definitely protective over him.
Yeah. Has like a best friend.
Mm-hmm. So she's like mad, but Cassian doesn't actually realize what Moore's doing, and Az is the one who sees it, and he like shoots daggers at Moore to like be quiet about it. It's like, ooh.
Azriel going against Moore?
It's such an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think Azriel is right for them to stay out of his business, because I feel like with Nesta, that's between them two.
And it seems like Nesta at least has some kind of reaction to Cassian.
Mm-hmm. But why is her reaction so intense? Any person asking about anybody liking somebody else.
Right.
But why is it so intense, though? Like, if you didn't care about him, why are you being so intense, bitch?
Right.
I do appreciate, though, how, like, he's so mad. Because, like, Cassian, again, like we said, we reiterated, Cassian goes up there every day to ask her to train, but she says no. And, he basically says, he agrees in a weird way with her. He said, she's been violated. Her body isn't her own anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He can understand why she's so adverse to it.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's ready. He's already ready for vengeance. He's like, I want to rip the skin off the King of Hybrid. Or, no, that's her job, babe. That's her job.
He threatened him. That's her job.
Right. Just furthermore cementing the fact that we both think that they're endgame, 100%. I can just feel it.
Yeah.
Going through all this pain to finally get to something better, I see it.
Yeah.
I see the foresight.
Yeah.
So, as we're talking, we have to remember that from the last book, the Book of Breathings is put to get back together again.
Mm-hmm.
Because Feyre, I don't want to say accidentally, she purposely put them back together again. And so we kind of have to figure out what that means, because Amren said it wasn't going to be good.
Right.
But we haven't seen that yet, so technically it's almost like a lingering thing that we don't really know, but that's hanging over their heads a little bit.
Was that really real? Like, did that actually happen? Or was it just a myth or whatever? Or is something bad going to happen in the future?
So they're like observing it, they're watching it, and so Amren doesn't like that they're hovering. But I love how the book was about to monologue and Amren was like, shut up. And it did.
Yeah.
It's like listening to her now. Badass. Just love their dynamic. Again, here we go. Here's the debrief now, because, Rhys-Anne knows about all that Feyre learned, but we're getting this now for them to hear about Hybern's allies on the continent and whatnot. We find out that they're paramount to a death sentence because Monteser, Ras, and Valahan are 3 territories who all have the money, they have the resources, they have the people, they have the skill to be very bad.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. Finally, Feyre is like, okay, I know you wanted to leave them out of it, but can we please call in that debt from Miriam and Draken? Remember, for those who might have forgotten, Miriam and Draken are those 2 people that were the main contenders from the last war. And they're like Rhys-Anne's friends.
Yeah.
I would actually say they're more Moor's friends, but they're also Rhys-Anne's friends.
Indirectly, they're at least allies.
Yes. And they live on an island where like human and Fae live cohabitably. But Az went to go find them on their island and he couldn't find them. Apparently the place was in ruins.
That's not
which
good.
Doesn't bode well. Yeah, that's so they don't know where they went. So they can't really ask for aid.
Right. I do appreciate though that like even though the place was in ruins, they don't think that Miriam and Draken are dead.
Yeah, it seemed more like they packed up camp and left more than there was like a massacre or something.
Right.
So I do love how we finally learn very much the lore about, because we've kind of been getting bits and pieces of their story, but we kind of learn more. So basically, we kind of learn how Miriam turned Fae, because again, she was what we would call a demi-Fae. They kind of just call them half-Fae. I use demi-Fae interchangeably because that's normally how they're called. She was never fully Fae, but in the last battle of the war, Miriam died with a spear through her chest. Like, she died. Feyre did.
Right.
But Draken took her to an island where rumor claimed to house an item made by the cauldron itself.
That's sus.
A cauldron made item?
That seems incredibly powerful and dangerous.
And it resurrected her and made her fully high, like Amren and Feyre, and now the sisters.
Yeah.
I wanted to plug that episode where I think in the first season where we talk about them, because we talk about the sisters a lot so the Archeron sisters, the ties that bind. Go back if you want to listen to how we talk about them in particular, about how they differ. But that's kind of like something that Feyre specifically and Miriam have in common versus the other sisters and Amren. Like, even though we say that the sisters died, like Feyre and Miriam had a brutal death, like one that actually their body just died,
where they felt the pain of it.
Yeah. And so it's just interesting how they all intertangle, but all at the same time, each one is different how they were brought back.
Yeah.
But all somehow are the same? Big old question mark. Like, how are they all the same? But
they're somehow the same now, but the way they got to the same is not the same, if that makes sense.
Right. So, yes, obviously. Okay, I finally think I realize now why Jurian's working with the king. Because if Miriam was made with a cauldron item, it would make sense that the cauldron would be able to track down said item or the trace of it in Miriam to then for him to find her.
Right, that would make sense.
That like makes so much more sense than whatever like was said before, that he just went mad and whatever. I feel like that makes so much more sense.
Which literally in the beginning of this book we're like, no, Jurian like maybe seems a little crazy about some things, but he's not insane.
Right. So I guess like, he's hunting for her and they're worried that, or I guess maybe Miriam and Draken found out about that and they fled. But like Rhys said, that doesn't really sound like them.
Right.
And also Miriam and Draken are Fae. Like they can take little puny human Jurian, is all I can say. Like,
right.
Why are they so nervous of him?
Maybe because he was brought back by the cauldron?
Maybe, I guess. Yeah, you're right. They wouldn't know what he'd come back as. So we also find out that Rhys, motherfucker, traveled all around and traveled to Hybern and like was there for a little bit.
What the fuck, Rhys?
The hell? Why did you? And he's like, it's okay, babe. It's okay. I can keep out of sight. That's not the fucking point.
The point.
We both said the same thing.
Yeah. Jinx, Because that's not the fucking point.
No, it's not. Okay, so this is kind of like my little spiel. I love, love, love this idea of learning the enemy is something that the Inner Circle does so well that I don't feel like has been said in a lot of other novels. Because obviously sometimes when you have a book like this that's about war, battlefield, 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 and like nothing, like we haven't gotten a battlefield yet. I mean, we've gotten a couple fight scenes, but they're really trying to figure out that, or they know that the idea of war is not just battlefields. It's about learning about the other people and learning about their motivations.
Or at least, yes, definitely that. And like just the idea that battlefields are not just a physical thing. Battlefields are fought on multiple fronts.
Because if they can collapse it from within, that would take out a lot of people.
Yeah.
Or collapse it in the sense of take their motivation away or, whatever. They wouldn't have as many numbers to deal with and whatnot. So they kind of are shit out of luck that because Hybern's people have been hungry for change for 500 years. They want to, like, he kind of goes on this big spiel and to kind of narrow that down. They want to return to this, golden era period where, humans were slaves and property and everything was right in the world. Trade routes were good. Like they weren't isolated, but because they didn't sign the treaty, nobody wanted to trade with them anymore.
Right.
Which then begs the question, like Reese said, did Hybern starve his own people because he just didn't want to find an alternate trade route, or did he want that to spur change and dissent and this hatred?
Yeah. I wouldn't even be surprised at that point if he and like his kingdom ate all of their slaves.
Oh god, cannibalism. Well, I'm not like condoning like the slavery part, but I will want to say that some people, because now the lesser fae have taken the place of the humans as the lesser people. I'm not saying, let's bring back humans again so that the lesser fae can be, propped up again, but of course the lesser fairies would be upset about that because they're taking the humans' place. So there's like a little bit that they didn't really think about.
It's like you can get rid of their slaves, their human slaves, but you can't get rid of slavery.
Yeah, because that's just their mentality, which is wrong, obviously. But this hierarchy that Tarquin was talking about is even relevant in Prythian, it seems. Maybe not necessarily slavery, but a level of hierarchy.
Definitely. And unfairness in ranks.
Or what did they used to call that? Like tier system? Ancient civilizations or whatever?
Yeah, social rank, class.
Yeah, class rank and all that. Only these people can do this job or whatever.
Right.
So obviously they see themselves as liberators. And Prythian is the territory that helped the humans the most and during the war, the last one, and they're in their way to getting that golden era back. So they're not fighting people who are just there for destruction. They're fighting people who are fighting with everything they have, keep them from being where they have been stagnant for 500 years.
Right.
So that's not good.
No.
Obviously. It is kind of funny to think of when he talks about how Prythian was the main savior for the humans, but Spring was the one outlier amongst their courts that fought for Hybern during the war.
Jesus Christ. Why?
See, we didn't get all of this information, though, when Feyre in the first book. None of this was even going to come up at all. Because why would it?
Right.
So that's just funny to think about. So it's like history's repeating itself.
Yeah.
And I think Amryn says what I was trying to say perfectly. It's like Prythian is the only thing standing in the way of the continent, so they're to be made an example of what happens to people who defend the treaty.
Right.
So the fact that they're just like an example, it like sucks. It's like, oh damn.
That's not good.
I just love this whole section because they're talking about it more than just we're fighting these. It makes the enemy not like less agreeable. I'm not saying they make them more agreeable, but gives the enemy more depth than just, oh, these people want slavery.
Right.
And like obviously slavery, yes, is bad. There's like more to it than that. But again, that is the main crux of it. Let's not
Right.
So Reese says that they don't really have many supporters on the continent, which sucks.
Yeah.
And they don't really have any allies, period, because the Night Court is not very much seen as great.
Right. They would have maybe had a chance with Tarquin, but now not so much.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's gonna be bad. So unfortunate. But the Inner Circle, while Feyre was gone, kind of understood that there was gonna be Fae territories that were gonna side with Hybern. So they planted information in each of the territories so that they could look at each other and be distracted enough so that Prythian can just deal with Hybern for them.
Right. So it's kind of clever in that sense of not even trying to ask for help from those other Fae territories. anyways, because they weren't gonna get it. But then like making them turn on each other just so that they so that they don't look towards Prithian. Clever.
Right.
Really clever.
Without bloodshed necessarily. I mean, maybe bloodshed between themselves, but even so, yeah.
They'll figure it out.
That's really clever, bro. I'm like, honestly, yeah, because then we wouldn't get like fucked from both ends. You know what I mean? Like them on the one side and then Hybern on the other side. They'd have to fight a war on two fronts instead of one.
Right.
So kind of fingers crossed. Hopefully they won't come and figure out they've lied to them fast enough.
Yeah.
So that's good. So that has relatively been solved. And so next to business is how to deal with the human queens.
Right.
So she asked, like, obviously from the last book, we're assuming, and even they're assuming, because we don't know. None of them know what happened. We're all assuming the queens turned Fae and the Hybern gave them immortality for them turning on them or whatever.
Right.
But we don't really
that we saw was them like huddling and like crowding towards the cauldron, pushing each other and stuff.
Yeah, so we don't know what actually happened, and apparently it's been very, very quiet. I know you brought up something, I don't know if it was in the second episode, but when they were talking about the holes in the wall, that's like one of the first things they bring up. It's like, Liesl was right. There has to be something amiss with the cauldron, because the cauldron is power itself. How would it not be able to unleash it right now and break cauldron like that?
Yeah, I think what I had said about it previously was the fact that, I mean, because it has been mentioned as well, the cauldron had to give something up to Nesta. At least that's what people think, that Nesta took something from the cauldron. And so it doesn't, so just reminding people of my theory. So the cauldron is missing a vital part, and so now it can't automatically do like the bad stuff that the king wants it to do because Nesta inadvertently took something, is the theory.
I think they're also thinking, you know, kind of a sidebar, they're also thinking that Feyre thinks that the cauldron spent too much on making them immortal. So everybody, including the sisters. So that's her theory. Not necessarily the Nesta thing, but I feel like I'm feeling more with you.
Yeah.
Because that's verbatim what they said in the last book. Nesta seemed like she took something more than she should have, or whatever. So now this makes sense. They need to find a way to patch the holes in the wall so that the cauldron can't use it, break. Because if they have whatever the cauldron wants, then the cauldron cannot break the wall. So they need to figure out a way to help Herod. I love how Feyre brings up, she's like, why don't I just try nullifying the cauldron again? I don't know, maybe because it almost killed you?
Sorry, this just popped into my mind of when Brennig and Dagden were looking at the wall, at the holes. I mean, I'm sure they probably like wrote reports back to the king or something, but were they able to get like all of the information from all of the holes back to the king because they were killed?
I don't think so. I mean,
So
Jurian
that could
could
also
have.
help you with it. I mean, maybe Jurian, but at the same time, again, I feel like there's more depth behind Jurian. And it still feels weird that he's working with. So I think it's the fact that they maybe didn't get all of the information back to the king, especially around third hole. Like maybe that's another reason why they have a little bit more time. The inner circle has a little bit more time to work on stuff because the king needs to now find out the information.
One, yeah, Jurian wasn't there when they were like surveying he was there surveying the wall, but he wasn't the one looking at it.
Right.
So he wouldn't really know much.
Right.
So Amryn proposes something different. She's like, instead of trying to risk Feyre's life, why don't the sisters try to repair the wall? Because if they were made directly from the cauldron, then maybe they can patch up the wall.
Yeah.
Obviously, Feyre is not really too fond of that idea.
No.
Right off the bat, because her sisters just had something traumatic happen to them. Why would they even want to help is kind of her mentality, which I understand what she's saying. But dude, Amryn, immediately, you sound exactly like Hamlin.
Oof.
Wrong thing to say.
Very wrong.
I mean, I think part of it is Amryn being cranky. I understand what she's saying, but also that wasn't like that wasn't the right thing to say.
I mean, yeah, she's cranky because everyone's in her space and she's probably tired and stuff. But yeah, let's not bring up the toxic man that kind of did ruin Feyre's life.
She's not being toxic. She's just being cautious. But I think a better way to say that would be like, you're starting to sound like if you keep on this path of trying to keep them out of harm's way and not letting them decide.
Or like the things you're saying sound like things that Tamlin has said.
Yeah, because I agree in that way.
Right, so just don't compare Feyre directly of like, Feyre, you are just like Tamlin.
Yeah, that was definitely the wrong... Well, and immediately more steps in. She's just like, no.
Let's wreck the law.
It's like, don't you say that bullshit again. That just makes me think of... It reminds me of when Rhysand said that they like wrecked the entire cabin once with one of their fights. I'm like, uh-oh, let's try to circumvent this, please.
Yeah.
Amryn said that to use the sisters to confirm Hybern's plans and to help them. I understand. She's right about it, but she's being a bitch, but she's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Feyre agrees with her right off bat. I mean, she's like, she's right. Someone is right. I gotta figure out how to be High Lady, but also to be family. And I like how we're getting to see this new dynamic, because now it's very realistic. She has a role now where she's actually the one making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so now she's got to like circumvent that and figure out the new normal here.
Mm-hmm.
When do I stand up and be High Lady, and when do I stand up and when do I back down and be just a friend?
Right. And then also, like, when do I stand up for my sisters, and when is something right? When do I need to listen? I will admit it was kind of nice for her to stand up to Rhys.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I love how he said Valaris is not paired for Nesta Archeron, and it's like she's like, my sister is not an animal. Ooh. Tension.
Well, Rhys does seem slightly taken aback of like, oh, oops.
He's like, yeah, like, I'm sorry, babe. Didn't mean that. I didn't mean it to come out like that.
Yeah. It has been a while since Feyre snapped at Rhys.
It has. It was time.
So, it was time.
He's taken aback, but like he understands why he is. But isn't that a sign of a good relationship? Be able to know that that's not like a detrimental thing. It's like, nope, what you said was stupid. Mm-hmm. So obviously after that little bit of tension, I do want to bring up the little thing Amryn says though. I feel bad for Elaine when in this instance, I hella do. Because Amryn says something like how she all reminds us how, she was to be married. Watch it.
Yeah.
It's like if that was 2 years down the line or something and she's still bringing it up, then I feel like she's allowed to say that. But a month, man, give her some more time than that.
Yeah. It's not even a break off an engagement, really. I mean, they haven't officially even broken it off.
We have to remind ourselves that Amryn's like a 15,000-year-old woman who is just done with most people's shit most of the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after this little tension, it's like a new plan has been made. They can't fight with just themselves. So Rhys is sending an invitation to every High Lord, all of them, to High Lord to Prythian to see who will stand with them in the upcoming conflict for a meeting in 2 weeks.
Kind of insane because I don't think that's ever happened before.
Them having a meeting with all of them? Only in a wartime I would see how that would be a thing. Which now it is, so good thing they're having it. Immediately thinking, that's not gonna go well. Not gonna go well at all.
No, really not. Especially if it says all the High Lords. Does that mean Tamlin too?
Yes, it does. And would you think he would show up? Or would you think he would go?
I think at first I thought he wouldn't. But then the more I thought about it, I thought that he would probably go and then he would make a huge scene and try and take Feyre back. Which would lead to arguing and probably not getting anywhere in this meeting.
And probably death.
Probably, yeah. Because Rhys is not going to let that happen.
Oh no, not now.
They
not ever.
Not gonna let that happen.
True. So, kind of get a flash forward now. Cassian's carrying Feyre up to the House of Wind later that night. They went back and figured out meeting places and a time for the meeting, but they'll have to discuss it amongst themselves because everyone's going to be like, well, not here. So there's going to be debate. And Feyre had to change and whatnot. I love how Cassian is taking her.
Yeah.
I love how even now that her and Rhys are mated, sometimes like Cassian will just take her up there.
Cassian kind of is like the middle person for literally everyone in the inner circle.
Oh yeah, 100%. To whenever they need him, man.
Oh, I think he enjoys the tea.
Oh yeah, 100%. Him and Azriel both though.
That's true.
Again, how we brought up before, I love how this is a juxtaposition from the first dinner scene. But Lucien and Nesta are going to be there with the whole inner circle, and
whoopee
went as smoothly as we all expected it would.
Slightly better than I expected, actually, if I'm being honest.
Okay. I love how the little thing though at the beginning, we finally see Nuala and Caradwyn up at the house, and Feyre gives them a big old hug.
Yeah.
It's like, we missed them. We did.
It's so sweet.
I understand why Feyre feels bad about snapping at Rhysand because she thinks that, I openly challenged my equal in a room with our friends. But it's like, that's what like the whole point of getting to know is like dynamic of new rulers together. That's just something you have to figure out in any relationship, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting as well because I think there's a part of her that she is worried because he's also High Lord and he's been High Lord much longer than she's been High Lady. She's worried that like she overstepped her bounds by just being a new High Lady. But also I feel like, I mean, as we learned, like Rhys didn't mean to upset her and, encourages it and stuff. But like Rhys has been ruling as High Lord for so long. He's been used to kind of making the main decisions. So I think it's a different dynamic for him as well to have someone else on his level, his equal.
So yeah, I guess in that way that you said, I do understand why she feels like that. But obviously Rhys is Rhys and he's okay.
He's okay.
Like, they're not actually this whole scene, like, he's not acting any differently. Like, there's not really tension between them necessarily. We'll talk about this later thing.
Yeah.
They're talking about like fashion or whatnot because like Lucian comes into the dinner full blown. He's like dressed up. Moore is as well.
Another juxtaposition to the second book when Feyre was the only one really dressed up, other than Rhys, and then Moore was dressed up.
And she just always does it.
That's true. And the fact that Feyre lived in casual clothes.
Mm-hmm. Cassian is such a good man, though. He's like, he knows the ladies. He knows not to talk to them about shoe choices or fashion choices. Leave them be.
Mm-hmm.
He knows. I love how, like, before the dinner, though, before they get in, Feyre and Cassian have brotherly talk.
Yeah.
She's, if it were you making the decision, would you use Nesta to use her magic on the wall? And Cassian said yes. Not only because we need it, but because Nesta is drowning, being cooped up, no purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the fact that he sees that even though they're in a house, they're taken cared for, she doesn't have a purpose anymore. And the fact that he knows that that's something she'd want.
I think part of it is that he also understands that feeling of being cooped up and not able to do something. It leaves you alone in your head. And honestly, I personally think that that's all a lot that Cassian had to deal with right after Hybern. Of like, he was probably bedridden, healing by doctor's orders, probably, and Rhys's. And so he was probably just left alone to think about, Nesta, about how he didn't keep his promise to Nesta to protect Elaine.
Yeah.
So he understands not being able to do anything.
That's sad because he really does feel guilty, and he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because they finally talk about what they see that day with Nesta and how she changed about her magic. It's like everything was amplified to 100. Her steel, her fire, it all got magnified.
Yeah.
And she asked him if he saw any glimpse of her power since then. And he said the only time he's seen it is when he's made her mad enough to get it out. And I think that's why he makes her so mad all the time. He's like pushing her to see it.
And to see something as well.
And yeah, he wants to push it out of her also to figure out, because that's really the only way they're going to be able to figure out how to temperament it.
Right. So it's like, it's a mix of him being concerned for her. Like, he doesn't want her to just be emotionless. He'd rather see that anger and that fire than emotionless, kind of how Rhys was with Feyre. But on top of that, he is also taking in his role as general and protector of the city. He's, because he knows that Nesta is technically a threat, especially if Nesta doesn't know what her powers are or doesn't know how to control them, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
Like, he is also taking into a threat and trying to see more of it so that he can learn about it.
I agree. And I think when I read this the first time, I never really understood why she was so mad at him specifically. And he thinks it's because she'll never forgive him for Hybern, and I'm like, that wasn't your fault at all. I really never understood why she's so mad at him for the longest time.
Though his wings were shredded, he was still trying to crawl through his own blood to get to her. So that's not like a lack of trying or like purposely not keeping the promise.
And I think she knows that. I think she's just being mean to, I think my first reaction was she's just letting it out to anybody who's in her vicinity. And that one just happens to be him.
Because he's around the most.
Girl, I'm gonna cry. She asked, like, why do you bother, Cassian? Because I can't stay away. Aww.
That's so sweet.
Even though she's being a complete bitch to him, he's like, I can't stay away. I don't know what it is. I just can't. I'm dying. It's so sweet. So sweet.
It's so cute. It's kind of sad, but so cute.
It's tragic, really.
Yeah.
So everybody but Elaine shows up to the dinner because obviously I don't think any of us expected Elaine to show up. But Lucian, Moore, and Nesta are the only ones dressed up. I remember writing in my notes, I was like, Lucian trying so hard to dress up. Rookie mistake, my man. Rookie mistake in a dress. There is no dress code, bro.
I mean, but no one told him.
I think that's what's funny about it. Like the not doing that. It's like, just want to see what you'll do. I love how Feyre says something about, she's like, oh, Lucian, why don't I take you out to show you it's a very innocent, let me show you Valaris or whatever. She wants to show Lucian why she fell in love with the city and why she loves Rhysand, and he's just like, you don't need to do that. I already know why you like. He's kind of being a little bitch right now. Like,
Yeah.
When he said that to her, he's like, it's okay, you don't need to. I don't, what should compare to this? It's like, nothing.
Well, yeah, even if that's the case, though, like, it is an offer from someone who you used to kind of be friends. Maybe she's trying to, like, repair that a little bit, or, you know, show her city. Like, she's trying to show him her city. Not just because she wants to, like, prove anything. She just wants to show it off. She wants to show him,
Or convince
like, her
him.
home. Not even necessarily to convince him, but she is just proud of her city, and she wants to show it off.
No, that's what I was saying she didn't want to do. It's like, Lucian, you need to be careful. You're kind of on a thin ice there. But immediately, right after that, the queen herself walks in. Full on, elegant gray dress. Cassian is like eyeballing her hella. And, you know, she just walks in, plops right down. Or, well, before she can sit down, I love how in Feyre's monologue, she's like, yeah, I just hope Mor doesn't, and then Mor squeals, and it's like, oh my god, where did you get that dress? I'm like, oh shit. That's not gonna go well. I feel like Mor and Nesta are the complete opposites. In like every way.
Yes.
Well, and I kind of forgot, this is the first time really Mor and Amren are meeting the sisters.
Right.
Specifically Amren. I mean, Mor has met them, but not like met.
Right, she basically just winnowed them and then like put them in the House of Wind.
Yeah.
And then kind of left them alone, telling them not to go anywhere.
Right. I mean, it's definitely more Amren's first time, but yes, Mor as well. It's kind of funny that Rhys won't tell anybody, especially Mor, where he gets the dresses or gowns for Feyre and apparently Nesta's dress. He won't tell, but he's got an excellent sense of fashion.
He does. Although it is kind of funny though, well, funny and sweet that he, as much as he doesn't like Nesta, like he still buys her a dress.
Yes, because she's still Feyre's family and he respects.
So he doesn't like Nesta, but he respects Feyre.
100%. Nesta does not return the sentiment at all. She gives her a look over and says, you're lucky I don't return the sentiment. Oof. They need wine stat.
Although I will say, at first I was a little surprised that Nesta actually showed up, but I'm kind of proud of her for it.
I think it kind of goes back to what I said with Cassian. She just wants anything to happen. She might never say it.
Yeah, I think that as much as Cassian can't stay away from her, she can't stay away from him, and she doesn't understand why either.
Yeah, but he immediately runs away and raids the wine cabinet.
Yeah.
I will say, this was the most exciting meeting I wanted to have. I knew once Amren and Nesta met each other, they would be such a dangerous combo because they are so similar. Jinx.
Yeah.
I like how Nesta does not give a shit. She's asking, why do your eyes glow? No one has ever asked her that, and no one has ever asked her what she is. No one has point blank asked, what are you?
Right, which is, it's kind of refreshing in a way, and I think that's what makes Amren kind of set aside a little bit of prejudice.
Because she's just upfront. You're right. So Amren, we don't exactly know what Amren is, which is so infuriating and definitely infuriating to my dad. I'll let you know. He really wants to know what Amren is. And so Amren kind of goes on the same rant that almost the same one that she gave to Feyre when they first came. It's like, oh, you're something different. What is unlike and like all? Or yeah, she was like a freaking old grandma spouting shit. She said that the containment spell on her did not fully work, and that the only part showing her true nature beneath is her eyes.
That's scary. I mean, we kind of thought about that when we first met her, but like, it's still scary for her to actually confirm it.
Right, and say it.
And
it's like
that there's a specific Amren telling us a containment spell, like as if she needed to be contained.
We knew that she had some sort of spell to get to her Fae body, but we don't really know much about that spell.
Right.
Like, is she possessing somebody? Is this some sort of, we don't really know. That's what makes it uneasy.
Right. Is she containing someone else?
She could be a demon. I don't know.
Ugh, scary. What a sweet little demon who's a cranky little auntie.
Right. I mean, I've read so many books now. The demons aren't usually that bad.
Usually it's the human or the normal people in charge.
Yes. So of course everyone's kind of on edge with Amren, and for good reason, but Nesta doesn't balk, which makes Amren that just more intrigued by her.
It kind of makes Nesta a little bit scary as well.
Oh yeah, but it's also about the whole, what I said. The reason Nesta and Amren are similar, unlike all the other maid people, is that their bodies don't fit the immense power that they have, making them so unapproachable. That's why everybody's so nervous around Nesta and Amren, because you can feel the power radiating off them, but it's so immense that contained to one person makes it so uneasy.
And on top of that, you can see it in their eyes. Amren literally, and then Nesta whenever she gets upset.
Is it also interesting that they both have glowing eyes?
Silver glowing eyes, yeah.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
Nope.
I don't believe in coincidences. I love this quote, though. When you erupt, girl, make sure it's heard across worlds. Hell yeah. Even though, like, sometimes I dislike Nesta immensely, that's badass. I really want that to happen.
And I think it's, like, shown to the fact that she is going to erupt eventually. Especially because, like...
Oh, yeah.
Especially since even the beginning of Akhtar. Like, it's always been said that Nesta is fiery, or she is like fire. And so I like how it continues with that specific comparison of she is related to fire, she's, like, going to erupt fiery. It's really cool and it's satisfying to the brain as well.
So obviously, to diffuse the tension, you know, they did in the last dinner scene, it's like, oh, Amren must have been taking acting classes because she sounds so dramatic, which fair.
One of her 2-day projects.
Though I will say, because remember, Rhysand from last time doesn't like to sit at the head of the table, so they all sit down before Lucian can, and Lucian has to sit at the head of the table.
Yeah, that is kind of awkward.
And he's like, I shouldn't sit here, right? Rhys is like, I don't care where you sit.
It's all just a table. We're all just eating.
It's like, yeah, but I will say that is awkward. Being at somebody else's house and being at the head of the table, that is very weird.
Yeah.
That's why I like a round table, because nobody is at the head of anything.
There is no head.
Yeah. No head? Sorry. That's a meme. Sorry. That was perfect. You kind of set me up for that, though.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Going to hell. Anyway, there's not even sex in this. Yeah, it's okay. I love how immediately they say Feyre's the one that's like, Az is the only polite one. The reason I bring that up is not because it's true, but that's the exact thing that Moore said to Feyre when they got there the first time. I just love the reiterating the same things, but it's Feyre that's saying it this time.
Yeah.
So then, of course, they start eating and whatnot, and I love how it's a little victory, but I think Nesta finally understands about the whole food thing, because remember, when they first sat down at the manor in the human realm, Nesta got really bitchy about Feyre not liking the food that they were eating, but apparently being high fae or whatever, there's a different taste to it, so yeah. Nesta didn't necessarily apologize, but it was probably the closest thing she'd get to an apology,
right? With
saying, I understand what you mean now. It's like, oh, that's a things are going well so far, not knock on wood, but okay.
And I think it's interesting as well, the fact that because they've been there for a month, they've been eating the fae food. So the fact that like this isn't the first time Nesta's eating the fae food. She's been eating it for a month. So now that she's finally eating dinner with Feyre, it feels to me like an underlying Nesta's remembering the last time she sat down to have a meal with Feyre. And remembering how she acted then. So even though she's like bitchy and she's really pissed about being fae, okay, well, at least Feyre in some way gave us protection, so I'm gonna at least try and fix this little thing.
Yeah, it's like there's leaps and bounds, right? Yeah. With this, I see the potential for there to be more of a relationship between them, but it's gonna be a very rocky road. Yeah. So they kind of move past that, and Cassian's like, when are we going? Well, it's Feyre who brings it up, but it's like they want to get back in the ring and training by tomorrow morning. So cool. Again, let's go back to training, man. I love that.
I love how they're like talking casually about it, of like, hey, yeah, let's get back to training.
Oh yeah, like nothing, whatever.
Lucian, Nesta, who have both kind of heard about her training a little bit. Well, Nesta from Cass and Lucian from Feyre. The fact that they're just, again, it's a family dinner. They're just casually talking of like, well, yeah, let's get back into that. I've kind of missed it.
Well, it was kind of like the first time. It's not all about Feyre. They're just being themselves, talking to each other instead of like bringing up the said elephants in the room.
Right. But yes, it's showing Lucian and Nesta that, they're not this super dark, crazy court. Specifically showing Lucian they're not an evil court. That they too can have family dinners. I mean, this must be like, of course it's awkward and kind of uncertain for Lucian, but it's gotta be better than him just sitting with Tamlin for 50 years awkwardly at that super long table.
Yes, I agree. I love how though, as soon as it's almost like Cassian wants to get the ladies riled up sometimes. I knew bringing females into our group would be a disaster, and they're all, hey! And then Rhysand's the one who's just like, I think it was you, Cassian, that said having a few pretty faces around would lighten our mood a little bit. And Amren's like, ugh, disgusting. But at the same time, funny.
I love it. I can totally
I love
imagine
it
that like conversation though of just Bat Boys, them just like chilling and then being like, you know what? We could use some pretty faces around here.
I love how it's such a seamless conversation. It leads into each other because then Amren kind of does a sweet like 180 of, oh, you're gonna have to keep them here when you go to the meeting with the High Lords, and then everyone gets tense. Why the hell did you just bring that up? And it wasn't really out of nowhere, but it was like, oh, well, now we gotta explain. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously they explain to Lucian that they're going to a meeting with the High Lord. Lucian's the one that has things to say. He's, can I give you some advice? If Feyre goes, she should hide her powers. Not because he wants to show that she's not capable, but if they go and Baron is there, he will side with Hybern automatically just to get his powers back. He doesn't care about the slavery. He doesn't care about like the reason for the war. He will fight against them just because of that, which is dumb as hell.
Petty. He's dumb as hell and he is petty. Also, the fact that like, Lucian was just like, if Feyre goes, it's like, of course she's going.
Like, yeah, she has to now.
She's also High Lady, so at a High Lord's meeting, that's going to be vital.
The High Lady has to show up, yeah. It sucks because I know what he's saying, but at the same time, like, I agree with him that I think they have to kind of keep her. But also, Baron is such a dumbass. He wouldn't have known any difference in his powers. There's nothing different with the powers he has now versus the little kernel that he gave to her.
Right.
There's no difference. But he just thinks if he doesn't have all his power, that somehow he's not going to be as powerful. Rhys could wipe the floor with any of them.
Even at full
just
power.
by himself. Yeah, so it's interesting that Rhys tells Az and Lucian to talk with each other because, I mean, obviously they have very similar jobs in a weird way. I mean, Lucian was never a spy master, but he was the one who had all the information about everybody else to give Tamlin. And it's so interesting. They're the ones that are similar and they're both vying for Elaine's attention. Of course they are.
Of course. Put the love rivals together.
I'm just saying, if you're going against a Bat Boy, you're gonna lose. I'm sorry, Lucian. I love you, but you're gonna lose automatically.
And on top of the fact that Elaine seems to want nothing to do with Lucian already.
Yeah. Poor guy. So, cause yeah, we have to remember that Eris did see her ice powers. So it's kind of quick to assume that she has powers that they don't know about. So like, but also it wasn't confirmed that it was her though.
Right.
So Eris is kind of going off of some baseless information, but he could give that to his father and then it'd be death. So they got to be careful about that. But I love how the chapter ends with, okay, well that meeting has to happen, but we have to do another meeting.
Right.
It's like, uh-oh, we have to go to the Court of Nightmares again. Whoopee.
So great.
None of us are happy about that. I also love how Feyre knows what that means now. It's like everybody else is confused. Nesta's the one that's confused. Like, what's the Court of Nightmares? Or Lucian's like, what's that? Da-da-da. Feyre's like, ugh, we gotta go there. I love that. It's kind of like how you feel now when anybody else starts a book and you're just like, oh yeah, just wait till you get there. It's like, what is this? It's all new. They have to go and ask Kier to fight for them and his armies. Now, we didn't really know that this was a difference because, again, last time, we know that the Court of Nightmares runs itself, and they govern themselves, but we didn't necessarily know the clause in that is that they could refuse aid. That seems very unhelpful.
Not great. That's going to be an unpleasant conversation.
Because now they have to have something that he wants, and what does he want? I don't really know. I don't really know his motivations at all.
Probably something that they don't want to give up.
Or to make more suffer, but how would they make more suffer is my question. So I don't really know what that would entail. So obviously, Moore is not happy about that. They call them the Darkbringer Army, which doesn't bode well for what they're called.
I mean, I will say that is kind of a cool name. I like the name. I just hate that it's Kier's army.
Oh yeah. They probably are badasses. That's neither here nor there. So apparently to Moore, there have been a couple of wars that have been fought, which is interesting. I wonder what those other wars were that were before Kier's time. But the Court of Nightmares has refused to aid the Night Court twice before. And it's never been Kier, though. He's always aided.
Which is good, I guess. But
they're going into this negotiation with a handicap because the last time they went, Kier's arm was like broken in 5 places and he wasn't allowed to recover. So they're not going with good odds.
No.
Well, and Moore is convinced that her father will say no. So she's like, don't bother.
It is seeming likely, yeah.
And they definitely have a big old argument. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I love how Nesta's just the one who's just, well, can't you just kill him? And Like,
Right.
can't you just kill him or make him do it? It's like, thanks for thinking outside the box, babe, but that's not really how that works.
Nesta being the one to say kill him? Dang, she really did change in the cauldron.
She's always been like that, but now, like, there's more of a reason where she's allowed to say that.
Right, now it's like normal for death and killing.
Obviously, if Moore doesn't go, like, he's Rhysand is telling Moore that, you know, she doesn't have to go if she doesn't want to. But it would be worse if she didn't go, because obviously she's their liaison.
Yeah.
And also, that'll just make her probably more angry.
Right.
Or be more suspicious. Well,
Right.
why
And
isn't she here?
also-
And it'll just make her look weak, which she doesn't want to happen, which
Right.
I understand.
Because she's been working for a while now to not be weak to her dreaded family.
Which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
To, like, be able to look them in the eye and not cry, bro. We would fail automatically.
Yeah.
Did you have a reason why Nesta was so against training? Because Feyre asks if Nesta wants to train with her, and she says no.
My original idea was just that she didn't want to be with Cassian, because, you know, Cassian's the one offering, so, and it seems Feyre's doing training with Cassian. She didn't want to do any kind of training with him. But I think, you know, after reading it a couple times, I think she was also scared of acknowledging her Fae body and what now she might be able to do physically. And say, like, being able to throw harder punches or something. Or maybe she hasn't necessarily ever fought for, you know, other than against the guards that dragged her in.
Yeah.
But, like, she's never, like, been trained for any of that. She's never, like, gotten into a fist fight before. So I think that combined with her new Fae body, extra power, extra speed, whatever, like, she is not going to be used to that. Because I can only imagine, I mean, if we remember the first, Feyre struggled to deal with her new Fae body immediately after. So I'm wondering how much Nesta struggled to adjust to her new, like, body, her new limbs, how much taller she was, that kind of thing. And so maybe there's a fear of having to readjust a second time as you learn to fight.
Yeah, or, you know, I kind of in that same vein, I didn't even think about this, but maybe she knows how much power she has, and she's scared that if she does try, that she'll hurt somebody.
Or maybe
that
she's
being
worried
said,
to hurt Cassian. And as much as she seems to, like, dislike him and is angry at him, she doesn't want to hurt him. Because I think she, even though she was, like, fighting like hell against the guards, I feel like she saw Cassian's state bloodiness on the floor.
Oh, she did.
I feel like, I mean, Nesta, we know that she cares about, she just covers it up with bitchiness. So I think maybe that image of Cassian stuck in her mind, potentially, like, all that hearing Elaine screaming and crying and then seeing Cassian bloodied on the floor, and, you know, she probably absorbed the fact that Feyre was vomiting and crying. Like, all of that's in her mind, and she's just like, well, I feel like I have power, but I'm scared to use it, and I'm scared to hurt Cassian.
I can agree with that. I can get on that bandwagon. I just wanted to see what you thought.
Yeah.
Nice. Another unexpected development is, you know, obviously very quick. Nesta says no about training, but she's like, I want to learn how to fly. Feyre wants to learn how to fly, and that's so cool.
And no one was expecting that.
Yeah, everyone was. I love how it was Lucian who was like, that explains the wings. What do you think? What do you think Rhys did that to her? Like, what did you think, Lucian? Baby boy just doesn't know anything. It's okay.
He'll learn, hopefully.
So obviously she gets like way too excited and overhyped. She's like, I want to join a legion. I want to fight with you guys. And it's like, whoa. Learning how to fly and then joining a legion. Like, you need to learn how to carry a sword while flying, a shield.
Right.
Like, babe, that isn't going to happen in like however long this is going to occur.
And like learning to fly, as like we think about it, you know, Illyrians learn how to fly from a very young age. And so like learning how to fly later on in life, like your body is already set in its ways. So that's going to be a whole nother thing. And on top of the fact that her wings are literally for shape-shifting, they're not even part of her. So she hasn't been learned how to really hold her wings up.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing, you're not going to, by the time, because you're running out of time with the war. There's probably not going to be enough time for you to even learn how to fight with a sword while flying. Like, is there even going to be enough time to learn how to fly before you have to go to war? Who knows?
Also, why would you want to be in the Legion anyway?
Right.
You're going to have plenty of stuff to do. But of course, yeah, Cassian's the one not talking down to her, but like, bro, it takes decades. You know, we can't do that, but we can teach you what we know. But Azriel is the one to speak up and say, I'll teach you.
Aww.
Well, because there's a practical element. He's like, well, Rhysand and Cassian don't remember how they were taught, and he was taught at an older age because remember the horrific. He wasn't allowed to be outside. He was like caged up for the majority of his adolescent life, and he wasn't allowed to fly.
Right. So he had to learn later on. So he understands what it's like, and so it does make sense that he's going to be. Which honestly made me so happy because then it's all three bad boys like played a part in her teaching of like training her magic, training her physically, and now adding on flying with Az. And I'm just guessing it means that I'm going to see more of Az. I mean, we're going to see more of Az.
I literally put in my notes, I was like, oh, it's cool, more time with Azriel. I know Liesl's happy now. So I'm glad you said that because I was going to say it anyway. So I know you so well, that's why. We also need to get more of Az's personality.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a good character so far, but we don't have much on him.
Mm-hmm. So it's time.
I mean, I like mysterious, but I also like learning the reason behind their mystery.
Yeah. Give him the one book and then he'll come out of his shell a little bit. Mm-hmm. So obviously now they have a regiment now after there's flying lessons after Cassian's lesson. And this spurs Feyre to ask Nesta about and tell her what's going on. She tells her what's going on. She says, we need your help with a wall. And surprisingly, when Amren says, I'll train you. Oh, God. Amren training Nesta?
Ooh, Amren will come out of the loft to train Nesta. That's interesting.
Out of all the people to train Nesta, though, wouldn't it be the one person that probably, if her magic did get out of control, could contain it?
Probably. Or at least would know how to tell people to contain it.
Yeah, so before even Nesta really has anything to say, she's like, oh yeah, we'll go to Hewn City to practice. They're all like, wait, what? Why would you go there to practice? And so she explains that Kier remember the Veritas orb? So apparently Kier has a lot of magical objects that Amren wants Nesta to practice on for when they go. And Nesta doesn't outright refuse. It's more of a, okay, what will you give me if I do this?
Right, a bribery.
Well, I feel like that's how I took it first time, as like, oh, I'll do this if you do this. But I feel like she was going to do it anyway. It's more of like okay, I'm doing this, but you need to do this. Like, right. Please.
It's not even necessarily a bribery. I mean, again, yeah, that's what I thought at first. But it's very much I think it's kind of like been a thing with Nesta of if she does it, she is concerned because that she's putting herself out there, and out there is kind of scary for her, especially in this new world, this new body kind of thing. So I feel like almost though she's like looking for kind of like reassurance of like safety that she's going to be okay. If she does this, they're not going to suddenly make her do everything or that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, because she asks about queens. Did the queens turn immortal? And it's like, well, we don't really know. And she's like, okay, if you kill everybody. I love how she looks to Cassian as well for this. She's like, I want them all dead. Yeah. I'll do whatever you want. I'll go to the Hewn City or whatever. I'll train with her. Calling Amren a her. It's like, I'll train with that one. It's like, but only if the queens and the king are dead by the end of this war. I think they are anyway, so
they better
good.
Be.
That's a kind of the outcome. Yeah. I think we're all hoping for that outcome, so okay. So we were shockingly surprised that she said yes. Here is where it goes downhill. So Feyre honestly, Feyre should have brought this up, but I understand what she means by maybe not bringing it up public. When Feyre brings up about telling her story, so telling Nesta's story to the High Lord, Nesta flips. Does not want to do that at all. Yeah. And she kind of goes into a big monologue. After that, she bursts out of the room. She throws the stuff on the table, runs out of dinner, slams the door, whatever. I'm not saying that Nesta's right in what she's saying, but she has a point. Because she brings up, why do I need to prove your guys's... Well, okay, her saying that they weren't reliable was because they are. Nesta knows that they have been perceived as bad. I mean, with the human queens, she knows that they are perceived as evil, even though they're not.
Right.
So that was kind of bullshit. But I think when she says she doesn't want to grovel to these high lords who wouldn't have cared anything about her if she was still human.
Right, which is valid. That is a strong.
She's like, why do I need to tell these pricks my story when they wouldn't have even cared? Or the only reason they care now is because I'm not a human anymore.
And they may not even care necessarily. So
it's not really necessarily out there. It's not necessarily about the high. It's almost this is an example, but she's taking it personally as like, I want want to tell you, I want you to tell them your feelings. Like, Nesta's pride won't allow her to look weak in front of a bunch of males that would judge her.
Right. That's not her. And on top of that, regardless of like their judging, like they wouldn't, even if she tells her story, there's no saying that they'll actually care about it or even listen to it. And I think that's a level of vulnerability that Nesta refuses to do. I mean, clearly by her monologue and her storming out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I relate to her on that level of it is hard to tell a personal story if I'm not certain if someone's actually going to be listening or even caring.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand.
So it's, yeah, so she also threatens them all. She's like, if you suggest even that Elaine do the same thing, I'm fucking killing you all.
Let's not test that.
Yeah, that did not go well.
Nope.
I love how the end of that scene is more saying, you can just drink straight from the bottle now. I love how they all weren't scared by Nesta's threat. They were all just kind of like,
Yeah.
It's like they expected it.
I mean, honestly, I think they were expecting it earlier on.
Mm-hmm. I kind of agree with Feyre, though. I don't think she should have brought it up in public.
At least talk to her about it first before bringing it.
Yeah, I think that was the reason. But how would she have known? She thought it was going well. I don't know. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to mention, that's kind of like the thing with people who've gone through trauma, is like often they may pretend to be fine, but one wrong thing, and that's a trigger, and then they close off.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. So then obviously they get done with dinner. Rhysand and her are walking around Valaris. He wants to check in on her after all that. I love how it was just a simple walk me.
It's so cute.
It's sweet. Yes, Nesta is definitely bloodthirsty, and Rhys is 100% right. But it's what he said earlier definitely was BS, though.
Yeah.
He's like, babe, will you hate me if I say your sister is difficult? It's like he's being cautious now about what he says.
Feyre is mad at him.
But it was just, she's not mad. It's more just like, okay, that was irritating. That was like in one moment.
It's
not that like
still have a few like miscommunications in that sense. Rhys thinks that Feyre's mad at him, and then Feyre thinks that she messed up by saying something at him.
And yeah, because like Nesta's always been a private person. Telling a bunch of people who she doesn't know and probably who she wouldn't even like is like an entirely other thing. I love how Rhys knows he made a bad call earlier with how he said to Nesta, and he tells her not to apologize for snapping at him. He's, you had every right to.
Good male.
She's like, I didn't mean to undermine you. And he's like, oh, this is why it was so awkward. Babe, you don't have to worry about that.
Like, you didn't undermine me. I mean, like, literally, it's your job to, like, question me.
We also were in front of our family. It's different than being out public and doing that. But in front of their family, they can do whatever. Yeah. He's like, question me all you want. Maybe, next time so I don't get teased as much, maybe. We can talk about it.
That's what he's worried about? Getting teased?
Not, the actual undermining.
Right. Totally made me think, though, what if Cassian did go up to him and just be like, hey, so. Well, no, that's when Feyre and Lucian were talking on the balcony. That was Cassian's moment to tease Rhys about.
Yeah. He's such a bottom. He's such a sub. He's not, though. That's why I say that. He's definitely not that. I love how, though, the conclusion is that, obviously we won't undermine each other, like, out public, besides the family, but the reason I feel like Feyre thought that way, because honestly, of the lingering trauma from the Spring Court, about how there was a rank, or not says the whole thing that Tamlin promoted in Mist and Fury was, we have to show a united front. We have to show a united front. And I feel like if anything, that seems more fake than it would be if, okay, there's some times where like you'll say something and I really don't agree with it.
Right. And that's something like they can talk about. But I think also specifically, I think Sarah was trying to mention at Tide, how specifically that's when Tamlin verbally said, no, if you excuse one person, that undermines my authority.
Yeah. Well, and also,
Rhys is not Tamlin. We've discussed this.
And she's not saying that here. She's not caring. It's more like that was just a lingering bit from there that she didn't really think about.
Right.
Because he says, because you're my equal.
That's so sweet.
I feel like there's more truth and honesty in an open communication, if every now and then you don't agree on something, than being a completely united front all the time.
Because that's just covering up the lies.
Because then it's not yourself. So obviously, Feyre also gives him, he's like, well, if you want some honesty, here's some honesty. He's like, you need to be cautious with Kieran more. He's like, you need to make sure what you're doing doesn't hurt her.
Yeah, because as much as you may need Kira's Darkbringers for the war, is that worth like pushing more away and upsetting her and hurting her? I don't think so.
Because it's like, I like how she says this. Is it worth troops he can offer if it means hurting her?
Yeah.
I do agree with him, though, where he says, like, we've been working with them for years. She shouldn't be this upset with it by now. But also,
Right.
I mean, I agree and I disagree in that context. Like, obviously, she's never going to be not upset by him.
Right.
But they have been working with them for a long time. That shouldn't surprise her.
Right.
So that I agree with. But yeah, now she's going to the Horde of Nightmares as the High Lady. So they gotta play this a little bit differently than before.
Oh, 100%. She went in as the Harlot's whore before.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's High Lady. He he he.
Now she has her own. Oh hell yeah.
Do you think she's gonna get her own throne?
I don't know, because I like the visual of them sharing one,
Mm-hmm.
but I also like the envision of them sharing or having two separate ones. But I think they're gonna share one because I feel like that symbolizes them better.
That's true. That's true. And then it adds on kind of to that unified front without like directly being toxic about it. I guess that also leads to like, say in the future, it's just Feyre going to the Court of Nightmares, and she is the one who has the epic entrance where she walks in all cold and stuff and just sits in throne alone. That kind of works rather than trying to suggest that there are two thrones, thus there's only half power if only one of them shows up.
Right.
Okay, I can see that.
So, moving on, they finally discuss what we've been dreading about this High Lords meeting, about what they're going into it with. Tamlin is invited. He might show up. Because Rhys is right. If they exclude him, that means they have something to hide.
Right.
Like excluding him from the invitation. And yeah, Tarquin's going to be there. That's not going to be good.
Luckily, they can't necessarily hunt him because they're not in the summer court.
Yeah, so something that Rhys brings up about this meeting is that it's kind of like on Switzerland terminology. They're going to be under some sort of spell that doesn't allow them to use their magic, so they can't mortally wound each other.
Which is good considering it's like the 8 leaders of the realm.
So it's, so they can't hurt each other. So I guess that's good. So they're talking about the allies that they'll have as well. Callias is going to be hard, the High Lord of the Winter Court, because of Under the Mountain, which will definitely be brought up.
Yeah.
I will say, what's funny as hell is that we both realized it at the same time. Rhys has had his wings out this entire time. It's like, you trust Lucian. You have your wings out, babe. Why do you have your wings out?
It's like, oh, it's so sweet.
Well, I didn't bring that up earlier. That was definitely a moment when they came back down in chapter 15, when he like struck his wings out at him and Lucian jumped back in surprise. It's like, oh, because again, remember that Rhysand doesn't show his wings to everybody.
And in the decades of knowing Rhys, like, Lucian has never seen them.
So, kind of in the same boat as I feel like we are, Rhysand doesn't necessarily trust Lucian, but he trusts that because of Elaine, there's a level of things that Lucian wants that they know he won't do to endanger that.
Right. So, if necessary, it almost feels like an underlying message of if necessary, they will use Elaine against Lucian.
Which sucks, because Elaine being a pawn in this isn't really good.
But she's not doing much either.
Well, I also think for Feyre, that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'd be insulted somehow if I was Feyre. Because the only reason all of this happened is because of Elaine and not because he actually realized that he was wrong.
Right.
There wasn't this realization. It was all because of Elaine. And that makes it seem like it's less genuine.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, yes, he's not a bad person, but the risk in trusting him is questionable.
Yeah. It's more like putting up with him right now.
I love how he says, it's all part of the game, Feyre darling. Who to trust, when to trust them, and what information to bear. Hell yeah. Oh, and then of course they have their cute, we'll keep planning for the future, war or no war. I will keep planning for our future happiness. We deserve to be happy.
Aww.
The fact that he brings up, because they're next to the place where they all had dinner that one night when they were on the Sidra, and she said how much she felt like she was at home.
Yeah.
And he was like reminiscing about how that made him feel, that he was gonna puke right at the table. You in this city helped wake me up, help me bring me back to life. I will fight with everything I have too, Rhys. Everything.
That's so sweet.
Under the starry night sky.
Aww.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Her home.
It's so, like, again, this wasn't necessarily like a section full of action, but this is preparing and figuring out what to fuck to do next. So, and having these cute, innocent, sweet moments. So,
right.
I like these moments. I like when we have episodes like this. Even though maybe some people aren't as interested in the lore, I fucking love lore. I love this so much.
The lore,
So.
and I think, Sarah writes action really well, but we also gotta give credit. She writes the soft scenes just as beautifully. And I think you need to have the proper balance between soft and sweet and emotions versus physical action kind of side thing.
And it's entertaining.
Yeah. Keeps
as
you
well.
on your toes.
Yeah. Especially with Nesta in a scene. Like, come on now.
Right.
So yeah, that's the end of our deep dive sections.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to move on to our second section where we are going to talk about the graphic audio. So welcome to Tally's Corner. Take it away.
So where are you at, by the way, before we...
I got to the returning to the foyer. And I admit, I stopped at Indeed She Is because I freaked out at that.
Was it really good?
It was so beautiful and sweet and made me feel all warm inside. And so that's why I stopped there, because I had like this whole freaking out thing and then things happened. But so yeah, that's where I stopped. Directly at Indeed She Is.
Perfect place to stop, though. See, I feel like these moments are also me preparing you for what you're going to listen to somehow.
Right. I still technically need to listen to that whole ready for ravishing moment. But
oh yeah, please do.
Other than that, I've been keeping up pretty well with our listening, how it coincides with our recordings.
Yeah, it's no problem. I like it. So right at the top, chapter 15, like right off bat, like Anthony with his explanation to Lucian about Anthony equaling Rhysand. His explanation to Lucian about, he sounds so stern. Like subtle change of voice to the very soft Rhysand from the previous scene to very much not like the fake masked Rhysand we know, but a level of, okay, this is how it's gonna be. And then the actual threat, hot as hell. Like, he's like, I'll rip out your fucking throat. It wasn't even, like, mean. It was just animalistic or anything. It was, like, a very deep, dark, like, sexual, I'll, like, rip your throat out, bitch. And
like
I'm
a serious kind that will not be taken lightly.
Anthony, please stop. I'm like, God damn it.
But at the same time, you're just like, actually, don't stop.
Just more, please, yeah. I thought, like, my big heavy hitters for this one was the music during the description of Valaris when they're flying up to the House of Wind and Lucian and her are looking out over the city. The music just gave me, okay, I'm not really a big Lord of the Rings fan. I've only watched the first movie. My ex made me he had to make me watch the unedited 3-hour version.
Oh, did he?
Oh yeah, and he like stopped and started. He's like, oh, so this, da da da. Yeah, I know.
The whole point of it being unedited is you watch the entire thing straight.
It's
not
okay.
what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about.
But yes, he did do that. So I've only watched Lord of the Rings once, but it definitely gave me LOT vibes, like just the fantasy song music. It was also very epic sounding.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that, and then I want to highlight our boy Gabriel just for a second here. I think having Lucian more in these scenes makes me realize, because Gabriel has been in 3 different graphic audios. He's been in 4, apologies, that I've listened. He's been in Crescent City, he's in Fourth Wing, obviously as Xaden, and then he's in Crave series. Every voice since hearing Lucian, I feel like out of anybody, Anthony included, I feel like Gabriel's the only voice who I have been specific on. They are very different, but somehow similar.
Right.
Like, everyone has a subtle difference, but there's definitely like an overwhelming, yes, when I hear this voice, I think of Feyre, or when I hear this voice, I think of Rhysand.
Right.
But with Gabriel and Lucian, especially with him and Xaden, it is so different. Like, even though they're both dark boys who have like fantasy voices, they're so different.
I think I can understand what you're saying here, because in the few clips that you've shown me of Xaden's in Fourth Wing, like, I hear the voice, and then I hear Lucian's voice versus Xaden's voice, and in my mind, I know that it's Gabriel. I know it's the same voice, but I just can't put 2 and 2 together. And with a lot of voice actors I've heard, I can put them together. Gabriel, I can't really, which is just a testament to his skill. It's incredible.
I know. He's so great, so great. So shout out Gabriel. I mean, I also gotta give it up to Nesta's voice actor performance. Again, I have to get her name. I apologize. I don't know them as well. So Nesta, like, especially the whole blow up in the library scene, she is spot on, bro. Like, she like starts at a good place and then she just grows and gets like more angry, and it's a really good, she doesn't just start out bitchy.
That's what to grow like in agitation. That's a good trait.
It just also, she's what I think of as Nesta. It's perfect. Girl, when Nesta is bringing up about, oh, you'll never let that male near, and then John came in with it was very elongated. He said, you'll do what? It was so fantastic. At the same time, it was kind of like one of those record scratches of, did he just say that to her?
Did you hear that?
It was hot as hell. I was like,
I expect it to
yes,
be.
I'll throw that trash away
You can make
continuously.
me do anything. Cassian says something.
Okay,
Whatever
babe.
you say.
And then I think the last part about chapter 15, I think that was cool, was the music when looking at Elaine was cool. Especially at the end there. There was this level of sadness, or not sadness, but it wasn't like epically sounding. It was definitely pressing as hell. And it just fit the vibe. It just fit the vibe of the scene really well. Then I think moving on, I think chapter 16, obviously that's when they're in the townhouse. They're in Amren's loft. I mean, obviously I told you that them liking each other or them being together always makes me happy when they're talking with each other. But honestly, I only really had one moment in this whole section that I was, graphic audio. I mean, graphic audio is great, but I feel like I brought it up so many times about how the trio is good together. But I think my favorite moment was when Moore and Amren were at odds with each other.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really seen Moore's voice actress or Moore as a character, get angry.
Right.
And her voice shifted really. It's just like, apologize. It's like, oh shit.
That is kind of like startling because I guess, what I've heard so far, Moore has been still very laid back for the most part and pretending like nothing bothers her. So for her to actually get bothered.
Warm and gentile. Not gentile, but warm and welcoming.
Yeah.
And then just apologize, Amren is like, holy shit. Okay. Now I understand. It gives, because there was I didn't say this in the main episode, in the main part. Feyre says something, this is the face of the High Lord third.
Yeah.
This is why Amren and her are second and third. And so I was like, ooh, that's cool.
Scary, but cool.
Because there wasn't really many music moments. This was a lot of lore. This was a chapter full of lore and explaining. So there wasn't really many audio moments. It's fine. That's okay. It doesn't need to always be that way.
It gives a break.
And then, of course, chapter 17, the whole dinner scene, or at least part of the dinner scene, when they're flying up, when her and Feyre and Cassian are flying up to the house. Again, I feel like out of all the guys, John, Anthony, and Gabriel probably do this the best. Them going from like a really, really deep male voice to such a soft voice sound of like hearing Cassian talk about Nesta is so sweet. About when he said, about how her being cooped up in the house, like he sounded sad.
Yeah.
It's like I can see her, just withering away or whatever. It's like, oh,
that's sweet.
And then, God damn it, John. Now I'm gonna start doing this more. I can't stay away. That line, there was so much depth to it. It was like 3 layers. Number 1, I didn't think he thought he was gonna say that. Number 2, it was almost like halfway through it, he was surprised he said it. And then it was. I don't even know if I could replicate it, but he's like, I can't stay away.
Almost like a level of confusion.
Yeah. There were so many layers, and I was just like, "Oh, babe."
Yeah, I can believe that.
There was also pain in it because I feel like he knows that this is gonna be hard, and also that they could die at any time during this war.
Yeah.
The other heavy hitters in this dinner scene. I mean, obviously, when Moore squealed at Nesta, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's gonna get Nesta riled up for sure," because she was just like, "Where'd you get that dress?" And it's like, okay, I feel like if I had somebody like come up to me and I wasn't in the mood, I can understand. I mean, I feel like I'm like Moore all the time in that context. But I think the funniest part about that is when Nesta said what she did about not returning the sentiment. You could hear in the background Az spitting out his water, and he's just like, he chuckled.
I feel like Az has a bunch of underrated moments where like he actually seems to have a sense of humor that no one emphasizes.
Oh yeah.
And, like, he's the one who spits out his water the most. He's the one who chokes on his water the most.
I feel like we'll see more with these training montages with them, I think. But I agree with you. Definitely underrated. You love the underrated boys, and I love the ones that are just like out and proud.
That's true.
Which is that's not dig, but I will say I don't, bring her up too much, but I do love Amren's voice actor a lot. Especially like in this monologue when she's at the dinner and talking about how we were put into two. It's so eerily epic, but at the same time so old sounding. So ancient. At some point she can sound that, that friend that doesn't want to do anything, but then in another moment she can be that all-powerful, scary person that they all think that she is, or like the general public, I mean.
Yeah, I can hear that.
And I think especially the graphic did this for me during this dinner scene. It's like almost like now Reese and Feyre are the mom and dad of the group. And it just gave me that vibe of them making fun of everybody at some point.
Yeah.
Because now they're cemented in their relationship, and now they're kind of like the rule colors.
Mhm.
Like the dynamic has shifted, so the graphic has shifted too.
That makes
to where
sense.
I don't know, because Feyre before didn't seem as like at home, or didn't seem like she could make fun of them first dinner scene, but now she's the one causing the ruckus.
That's funny.
So then the last chapter 18, right off the top, when because in the graphic, I don't know if I've said this before, but in the graphic they don't do chapter numbers.
Right.
It's not like
They don't.
in a normal audiobook where it's like chapter 1, chapter 2. Like again, it's a movie, so the scenes go with each other. Because end of chapter 17 is Reese saying da da da, we need another meeting, and then right away chapter 18 starts. So it's they have moments where they have like a pause where, you know, sometimes if it's changing perspective or it's changing where they're going, there's a slight pause.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's just they go plow right into it.
Right. Just like a movie.
So right at the top of chapter 18, you just hear Cassian filling his face with food, and he's like, "Don't tell me we gotta go to the Court of Nightmares." So late casually and so funny. Also, that was just a funny like audio moment. I was like, oh, just classic Cassian. Again, I think hearing Moore's voice actor get more raw and angry during their fight, or I don't want to say angry, more like frustrated. It's like, listen to me. They won't. It was like a really good progression from you're gonna ask for Kier's help. Why is da da da? He's not going to answer you. Listen to me to, you know, where it ended.
Right.
So it was very raw. So I definitely like aggression. I don't know. That's a thing in acting. That's a classic acting mistake. It's kind of knowing going into the scene, going in very hard. And I know a lot of actors can mess that up where it's like, kind of like with Nesta, what I was saying. Sometimes you can go into it like, I'm going to go into the scene angry. No, you have to build up. Why are you getting angry? What is somebody saying that's making you say that or do that? You know, I mean, obviously these people are professionals. It's something I like to highlight.
Yeah. Give credit where credit's due.
100%. Great acting wise. I love the music when Nesta stormed out of the dinner. I mean, obviously Nesta's blow up was really good.
Yeah.
Her voice actor never yells. It's very much like a very stern, scary noise.
Right. Very serious.
So I love the music because it's kind of like eerie at the you know, kind of like at the end of a movie or something where there's tension, and then it kind of releases. There's a sense of release after they leave. So it faded out a little bit. It was just so cinematic. So that was great. Also, the music of Valaris is always such like a movie. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like I can just, you know, picture myself walking down way. It's so perfect. So obviously any scene in Valaris is going to be like that, but I just have to highlight the music every time. The cautious Reese, Anthony, bro, he definitely gave me that kawaii vibe of just like, so can I say that your sister's a little bit difficult? It was the cautious that made me laugh. And also, of course, being vulnerable with her. Obviously, anytime Anthony's like that, it just, you know, a stab to the heart for me.
Right. For Reese to actually be vulnerable with Feyre.
Because he's like, because you're my equal, and da-da-da, and we'll plan, you know, together for the whole world. Like, anytime, oh my, every line is delivered with such softness. And it's like, babe, Rhysand. I think that just makes every other scene where he's not like that so much better. Because it's like, this is how, because this is how Rhysand is with her. It's an audio thing, not just a physical book thing. Like, we know that he's different with her, but now we're hearing it.
Right.
And it's like, oh, now I can tell the major differences. And I love the music at the end, because it's almost like when he's reminiscing about their night out at the dinner there that night, it's almost like it was giving me, like, you know, when they have a montage of when the people there are watching where they were sitting, and you can kind of see their silhouettes in a movie, and it's like you're seeing them retroactively there. It's like that music movie moment of seeing that was kind of under that whole thing.
That's cool.
And it was so pretty. And then it just led into the whole epicness of her saying, I'll fight with everything I have under the starry night sky. And then the music like faded out and whatever.
That's so sweet.
It just fit so perfectly. I loved it so much.
I love that.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. So yeah, those were all my graphic audio moments for this section.
I'm excited to listen to it. It's another typical family dinner.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to listen to this and just, I don't know, get a little break from the excitement, because the excitement is going to be a continuous thing. So yeah, please again follow Facebook, Instagram, Talk, follow our Patreon if you haven't, and if you want to donate or you want to be a part of our community on there, please think about it. We'd love to have more people and for you to give your input on what we want on there as well, besides what we already have. And yeah, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, and what we're going to do next time, our next chapter deep dive that we're going to go into is chapters 19 to the end of 24. So we're going to be uncovering a lot of different secrets of Prithian that we didn't know before, and get a lot of different perspectives. So very excited about that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is there anything you wanted to say to our people before we leave?
I'm just having
Okay.
so much fun doing this, and I'm glad we're getting into it.
I know, and we're getting so much more support. We're almost at 1,000 downloads.
That's insane.
So we'll hit that sometime goal this week or today or whatever. So I'm very excited. So we'll spread that word around and everything. So we hope you guys stay happy and healthy, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yep.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.